the next thing on there, we like a motion to approve of the minutes from February 8th, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
Commissioner Jenkins moved that we accept the minute from 2022.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made by Mr. Jenkins and second, Mr. Wade. All in favor of such motion, let it know by raising your hand. Okay. The motion
Commissioner Jenkins,
this is
Commissioner Jenkins, this is Ms. Ferguson. I'd like the record to reflect that I abstained from that voting. I am not recorded as being at the meeting last month. I did not get the notice, the link to log in, so I watched it on Zoom. So I want to go on record that I'm not voting to approve those minutes. Thank you.
Okay, the motion has been carried. The first thing we have on our agenda this evening is old business. Major subdivision preliminary plat, phase 1 of the North Point subdivision tax map number portion of 06000-02-087. At this time, we'll have Ms. Wagner to bring us up on this because we looked at this back in May of last year.
Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. The applicant, which is this is North Point subdivision, that's the Nimmers. So they're requesting a preliminary plat approval for phase 1 of the proposed North Point subdivision. The subject property consists of 125 acres and is known as the Nimmer Smart Tract. The applicant intends to develop a single-family residential subdivision. The development will be constructed in 2 phases. The applicant is seeking preliminary plat approval for phase 1, which consists of 33 lots and will impact approximately 51.7 acres. The Planning Commission granted conceptual approval for phase 1 North Point on February 4th, 2020. The property is owned rural preservation and is located along Highway 278 in the Gillisonville area, just before the intersection of Morgan Dollar Road, which is Highway 462. The applicant proposes to develop the property in accordance with the current zoning designation of rural preservation, which requires lot sizes of a minimum of 1 acre. All these lot sizes range from 1 acre to 2 acre. There are 9.69 acres of dedicated open space. Some of the open space areas contain wetlands, which the applicant intends to preserve. A landscape buffer will be established along Highway 278, which will provide screening for the subdivision. Once all the lots are sold, a homeowners association will be established by the developer. In accordance with Article 2.8 of the Jasper County Land Development Regulations, once the Planning Commission approves the preliminary plat, the applicant shall submit 4 final sets of construction plans for execution by Jasper County. 1 copy will be forwarded to the applicant. The preliminary major subdivision plat approval shall allow the applicant to proceed under the supervision of the county with the installation of the site improvements. Preliminary major subdivision plat approval shall not authorize the applicant to sell or otherwise transfer lots or parcels within the platted subdivision. No construction shall begin on the site until the developer has posted the appropriate performance bond, letter of credit, or other financial security acceptable to the county for the proposed site improvements, along with the appropriate inspection fee. In accordance with Article 4.6 of the Jasper County Land Development Regulations, preliminary approval shall constitute approval of the proposed widths and alignments of streets and the dimensions and shapes of lots. Preliminary plat approval is good for 2 years from the date of approval. A traffic study was not required for phase 1 because any one that generates less than 75 peak hour trips. So while phase 1 doesn't trigger the traffic study, one will be needed when they move forward with phase 2. An environmental impact assessment was prepared by Ward Edwards, dated January 26, 2020, and it was included with your staff report. Thomas and Huttons reviewed the subdivision, the actual construction plans against the land development regulations and the zoning ordinance. All requirements of the land development regulations have been met regarding the engineered plans for construction. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for phase 1 of the North Point subdivision with the conditions that the applicable bond or other financial guarantee must be provided. A site inspection fee must be provided. 4 sets of construction plans marked final for construction, and a pre-construction meeting to be held on site with county representatives. And just if you remember at the last meeting, I think it was in May, we needed one of those lots needed to be updated on the plat to show that it was an acre. That's been done. In your package, there was the mechanism provided for the road fund calculation, and there was a road maintenance agreement.
Okay, commissioners, you have heard the update from Ms. Wagner. Mr. Jenkins, I'd like to get the comments from you. Well, wait, I'm gonna back up. The applicant is present. We are here from them.
Yes.
Okay.
Who is representing them tonight?
Mr. Willie Powell with Ward Edwards. He's here.
Okay, Mr. Powell, you'd like to give us an update on this major subdivision?
Good evening, Chairman. Yes. When we came before you guys last year, we had all engineering plans were completed, and we were seeking the preliminary plat approval, but we were lacking a couple of items that Lisa just mentioned. One of those was having the preliminary plat itself be properly drawn to depict that last lot. It was some acreages on that plat were not 100% accurate to depict the minimum 1 acre lot size. That has been updated and supplied with the packet. Another issue that had come about during that conceptual approval was to have a road maintenance agreement drafted and provided, along with some kind of mechanism to help fund that road maintenance agreement. Both of those items have also been addressed and supplied with the packet. Other than those items, the other components of the application remain unchanged from what the commission saw last year and conceptually approved. So we really just focused on getting those couple of items addressed and provided back to Ms. Lisa, and then back before the board for hopefully a final approval.
Okay, Mr. Jenkins, do you have questions or comment?
I just have one short question. Lisa, when I was reading this, it said applicant proposed to develop the property in accordance with the current zoning designation RP, which required lot size to be minimum 1 acre. The proposed lot size ranged from 1 acre to 2 acre. So on 1 acre, you can put 2 houses, right?
No, not in rural preservation. It's only 1 house on 1 acre of land.
Oh, so 2 acres, he'd be able to put 2 houses.
If he has 2 acres, he could. There were covenants, and I had so much to read. I read every bit of it, but I almost want to say the covenants said you couldn't have but 1 house. I think it did.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, one primary residence per lot, and the lots are also required to have minimum lot frontages and overall lot dimensions. They got a minimum of 200 foot of lot frontage. So I think that helps to kind of define each lot, and then like I said, the 1 primary residence per lot.
Okay, yeah, when I saw that 2 acres, that's what.
So a couple of the lots either had wetland on them or just backed up to the property boundary. And so the lot lines extended to the overall property boundary. So the lot ended up being about 2 acres, but all the lots achieved the minimum of 1 acre requirement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. R. Mr. Art,
Okay, I apologize. I was on mute. Okay. Mr. Powell, if you could explain a sentence to me, I apologize. I'm not an attorney and some things just escape me. There's a sentence, the last sentence on paragraph 3 of the road maintenance agreement. The developer shall carry all the responsibilities of a lot owner in proportion to the number of lots owned. What's the gist of that? Because I'm just having trouble with it.
So at the beginning of the development, the developer has responsible for all lots. And so they have 30, 33, 34 votes as part of the agreement, and they're responsible for funding it in that manner. As each lot sold, their requirement goes down and the new private landowner responsibilities go up. So I think
Okay,
it's
but
saying that they're responsible for the unsold lots or lots that have yet to be conveyed.
okay, that's pretty much what I thought. But the developer will still carry the financial responsibility to maintain the road until all the lots are sold, or until such time comes as there is an association
Correct.
that carries that responsibility. Because given the fact that it's going to take, that the development will occur in 2 phases, it could be some time before there are enough lots sold and there are enough $250 contributions to really do anything effectively to impact the upkeep of that road. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Boston,
Yeah, my question was similar to what was just asked. It's just that when 100% of the lots are sold, then the developers will no longer be responsible for the road maintenance. That would completely go over to the HOA. Is that right? That's pretty much what you said. Am I right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, but until that time, if you sell half of the lot, then the developers will be responsible for 50%, and the homeowners will be responsible for the other 50%.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's the only question that I had about that.
Mr. Redway. Mr. Way. He's mute, so Ms. Ferguson. She's muted.
I don't have any comments at this time.
Okay, Dr. Buck.
Yes, I have a question, and in regards to the HOA, POA that we were provided, and Lisa, this is probably something I should ask you. Number one, on what we were given, it allows businesses in the subdivision. Is that in conflict with our county ordinances?
So the county ordinance would allow a home occupation as a conditional use. So whatever they may allow, it won't override a county. Like their covenants might allow it, but a county may not. So
as a participant in an HOA, it's very confusing to homeowners when their HOA says it's okay to do that, and it conflicts with what the county, it should be consistent with what the county ordinance reads at this time, in my opinion, because people are confused by that generally, but that's just an observation from my own experience. I have another just question for my own education and learning about this. Ward Edwards is contracted and is employed by the Nimmers to provide this information to the county. Is that correct? They are not employed by the county.
no, they're the design engineer for the applicant.
Okay. I have a question about the percentage of open space in this plan that is wetlands, and maybe we've already agreed to that. Is that kind of going back and rehashing something that's already decided by asking that question?
You can ask the question.
Well, I just would like to know the percentage of open space that is wetlands. I mean, it's noted in here on the information that we have, that there is open space for the community. But then when I look at the map, it looks like most of it is wetlands. And I just wondered, out of those designated open spaces, how much is technically wetlands? Is that something someone would know with the, that's representing the NIMRs tonight?
Yeah, I think Willie can answer that.
I do not have that number in front of me. I think the open space calculation though does include wetlands. It includes the stormwater facility. And there's
Right.
also some areas around the wetlands that are upland that are also included in that number, but I do not have the calculation in front of me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me ask you, what is the purpose of the open space when in this design?
So the open space for the stormwater component is for stormwater management and treatment, and that is part of the open space calc. There are around the wetlands are also just kind of passive open space areas there. The color exhibit does include kind of a temporary play field as part of kind of the phase one open space, and that field area will be relocated in the future phase to another upland area further south within phase two. But the majority of the open spaces are more of the passive open space, but there's the field within phase one, which is kind of a lawn gathering space for the community, which will be relocated in phase two, so that the community remains having kind of a gathering and open space area.
Okay, I don't see it on this, what we were given, but I think I remember discussing that before as to whether or not there was any common area for, say, children to play and things like that. And the last question, and I know Mr. Jenkins and Dr. Bostic asked about this, but concern about the funding for road construction in the event that things don't hold up like they should. And am I correct in understanding that the developer will provide the $100 each year until that lot is sold? They will put that money in the kitty to build. Is that what's going to happen?
That's my understanding as well. So that way each year you get the initial influx of monies, and then you get the $100 per year of monies as well. And that's how the calculation was run, was assuming that is the case.
And just out of curiosity, I mean, are you sure that this will be enough to maintain that road or those roads?
The intent was to be able to provide for kind of a repair, cut and patch, along with some overlay and kind of general ceilings. It's the road is designed as more like a 20, 30-year road, and the calculations run on a 10-year basis to provide kind of continuous upkeep more so than a full replacement. So
some of the information, I believe it was in your packet. The cost, the initial cost was like over $500,000 to have asphalt laid on that road. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So at
the intent is to provide
$40,000 over a 10-year period, I mean, that would make a dent in. But anyway, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, interrupted.
The intent is for that the road maintenance fund to provide continuous maintenance of it rather than having a large lump sum at the end to do a full repair. So that the calculation was based on doing maintenance on a regular basis more so than waiting for it to get in disrepair and then having to completely fix it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had an older file here for North Point, and I knew the wetland had been on some of the previous information, and so I just looked it up. The total wetlands on that entire tract was 5.17 acres, so just barely over 5 acres.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you looking that up.
Sure.
Lisa,
Mr.
this is a very
Your
minor
comment.
point of information. And it is very minor. Paragraph 6, there are a couple of typos.
Mr. Art,
Yes, sir.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
It's Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize to everyone. My computer blanked out. It took me a little while to get back in, and so I may be asking questions that has already been answered, and I apologize if that's the case. First off, the first question I would like to ask is approximately, or what's the estimated sellout of these lots?
From a timing standpoint,
That's right. From a timing standpoint, what kind of figure do we?
I think the intent is once they get started, I would envision a 1 to 2 year cycle.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because it says once all the lots are sold, the homeowners association will be developed. They're not going to develop any HOA or structure any HOA before that 100% build out.
I think before that happens, the landowner, the developer is the declarant. They are the primary agency in charge of the neighborhood. And then once that last home is sold, they'll then establish a formal HOA with board members, treasurer, the whole 9 yards to kind of take over running it going forward. But until then, the declarant.
And the reason I'm asking that is because in most cases, it's usually like a 60 or 70 or 80% build out instead of 100%, because that way the developer's turning it over before he's just walked away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's something we can certainly revisit. I think the other side of that coin is, they don't want to lose as they're selling homes and developing the property. They don't want to lose any kind of marketing ability or having things changed out from under them before they have a chance to fully kind of finish out the development.
Okay. The only other thing I had was in the covenants under number 11. It says pets shall be under lease or voice command or voice control at all times when walking or exercising outside the all fence areas and lots. I believe county code is for them to be leashed at all times if they're outside the yard. Is that right, sir?
I'm not, that would be in the animal control ordinance. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that ordinance because we don't address it in zoning.
I think that's the case, but anyway. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
And if I may add just one thing about the covenants, we wouldn't ask them to file these covenants until it's time for final plat approval. And at that time, when they go to file the plat, we certainly do want to see the covenants filed along with the road maintenance and we want everything to be on file. So I just say that because when they come in for final, I think we can look over the covenants one more time. No matter what the covenants say, they're not restricted now to when they sell 75% of the lots, if they wanted to go ahead and deed it over, they could do that. But we're satisfied that they're being a representative of one lot and taking on the responsibility for all the lots that aren't sold. So we do like that.
Okay.
And in the morning.
Make sure you address the chair so you can be recognized. Mr. Arch, you had a question or some comments?
Just a point of information for whomever prepared the road maintenance agreement. There are just a couple of typos. I think it was on paragraph 6.
I'm uptown to a meeting. I didn't get the truck back yet because he had to order parts for it. You hear me?
Yeah, it's obligation of lot owner in the next line on a bona fide first. Just very, very minor.
Okay. All right.
So, Ms. Wagner, you see where he's talking about where you could make those changes? He was addressing that too.
So I'm not able to make the changes, but we'll make sure they get done.
It's minor.
Sure.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
Mr.
Comments?
Chairman,
I have a question. Lisa, could you just pretty much define what is the percentage of open space again that we look at in these projects? And could you define open space?
Sure. We require 10% for subdivision, and the open space, it should be space that's used for the community. Our ordinance does allow certain amounts of your setbacks and different things can be applied toward that. I know in our PDDs, we have been asking that people only use 50% of the wetlands to count for the open space. So we don't want 100% of that to go toward open space. But it's just space that should remain open throughout the subdivision, like it shouldn't later in life when the developer's no longer there and they have their own HOA. We don't want them to come back and say they want to use it for a lot or create another lot. It's to remain as open space to support the community.
Well, I was just wondering how much of that open space could be used for, how much wetland can be used in that percentage for open space that you're using for the community, which should be unusable, really.
And, just for the record, they have agreed to preserve that. So sometimes some of it's used for stormwater. I don't think, that's supporting that. It shouldn't be considered open space, but there are times when some wetlands are used for open space that does benefit the community, whether it's a passive park or even maybe a fishing hole. So I'm trying to get to that now just to see exactly what the ordinance says. And I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that they had almost 10 acres of open space total for the property. So just over 5 acres is wetlands. But according to the ordinance, it just, let's see, designate areas be reserved as open space. The specific design of open space shall be sensitive to the physical and design characteristics of the site. Designate the type of open space which will be provided, indicate the location of plant materials, decorative features, recreational facilities, etc. Specify the manner in which common open space shall be perpetuated, maintained, and administered. So as far as the ordinance, we have recreational areas, we have natural areas that might be undisturbed vegetation or areas planted within vegetation. Woodlands and wetlands are specific types of natural areas. We have greenways or linear green belts linking residential areas with other open space areas, landscaped areas, parks, and required buffer areas, including creative landscaped areas with gravel and tile. So the ordinance doesn't list an exact amount of which type. We do just say for residential subdivision, you need 10%. Then it lists the different types of open space. Again, with the PDDs and the big tracts of land, we have been asking that only no more than 50% of the wetlands be accounted for open space.
But we don't have anything for just the subdivision like we're dealing with now as far as percentage-wise.
No, sir, not other than we just require the 10%.
So it can be wetlands, it can be stormwater runoff, and maybe.
Well, not the stormwater, because that's serving as a purpose. It is, to support stormwater. So that's not included in the areas, but it can be wetlands that are preserved. It could be the required landscaped areas. It could be paths and trails, recreational areas that support the community.
Yeah, well, that's what I was concerned about, the recreational areas. If you've got like 95 or 80% of it wetlands, I mean, it's open space, but it's not usable. So I was just wondering if there was a certain percentage that have to be usable for playgrounds and things like that versus a large percentage of it is wetlands.
So the preliminary plat, they don't show, it doesn't show the soccer field, but if you remember when we reviewed the project earlier, they were using 2 lots out of phase 2
Yes, ma'am.
for the recreational area to provide a soccer field.
There's one of the exhibits is a color site plan. And on that, there's a land use table kind of in the bottom right corner. And it summarizes that of the overall acreage in phase 1, which is 53.7 acres, we've got almost 9 acres of kind of common area in stormwater, which is 16.6%. And then in addition, another about 0.8 acres of wetland. And that does not include the soccer field. So that's actually, soccer field is in addition to that area. There's some kind of upland gathering areas off of the roads, kind of right between lots 1 and 2, that can also be used kind of as gathering spaces. And also with the lots being a minimum of 1 acre, we're not quite as confined to the common areas. So the lots are bigger. There's more play areas on the lot itself. So which is also one of the benefits of having these larger lots. But all that to say, we have about 18% of total open space, and not counting the 2 acre field area.
So they didn't have the colored schematic this time because we didn't have any extras. We gave them out the last time. So the last couple of times y'all reviewed it, y'all had that, you saw it. In the disturbed area, as far as their permits from the state agencies, they've accounted for the area that's going to be the soccer fields.
You want me to share my screen real quick, Lisa? Is that okay?
Chairman Pinckney, would you like him to share the screen? And it's a document y'all seen before, but he could show you.
Yes, but the question before he shared, is that wetlands jurisdictional wetland or non-jurisdictional wetland?
A little bit of both. The majority of these are jurisdictional. They have small ditches that kind of connect them around. But there are both of them on property, but the majority of them with us are jurisdictional. And they're all proposed to be protected.
Yeah,
no, there's no
the
proposed
jurisdictional you can't use for anything, so that shouldn't be in the calculation at all.
It is, and we separated it out. It's shown separately.
Okay. Well, you can put that map up real quickly.
All right, I'm from my phone, so let me try to do this. Well, thought I could just share a tab. A little out of my league here. Well, it's not quite working that way on my phone. I'm sorry. I can email it to you, Lisa, if you want me to, but I can't quite pull it up the way I thought I could. I'm sorry. I have it on my phone as another tab.
And I was looking in my documents. I don't see that I had it, but because I think y'all delivered those and we gave them out to the planning commission previously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have it on my computer.
We're going to move on without that document, but I have a couple questions for you. What is the furthest point from the exit of that subdivision to 278, to the furthest lot?
Down the, oh, it just worked. The distance from 278 to the furthest most lot.
Yes.
So it's about 1,600 foot down the longest cul-de-sac road. From 278 down, it's 200 foot of lot frontage. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lots plus another 100 foot. So right at 1,500 feet.
The reason the question was asked, these lots gonna be sort of marketed to younger families. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
What will be the situation with kids getting to their bus stop with no sidewalks?
With the larger lots and the small number of lots in the development, I think the intent is we could just use the wider right of way or use the roadways to get anyone up to 278.
With kids walking to the bus stop with the street, I've found that to be very dangerous, and they don't highly recommend that.
I'm not
Sidewalk, and you don't have to put them on both sides, but at least one side of the street lends better safety where young kids have to go to a bus stop. Because right now, when kids get up, repeat that again.
I don't know. Is the bus allowed to enter the neighborhood?
So that means kids have to walk out to 278.
No, I mean, I don't know if the bus is allowed to enter the neighborhood and then pick them up from internal to the neighborhood.
Right, that means they will have to. They'll have to walk to the bus stop to 278 and walking on the street, because when kids board the bus now, it's dark and people going out there and kids walking in the street to get to the bus stop. That's very dangerous.
I don't know. I guess Lisa, that's a good question from your side. I don't know that we're not required to have any sidewalks per the.
But still, what required, our job as commissioners is make sure any project we approve that it meet the best safety practices for a subdivision. That doesn't have to be written in stone. We have to use our best judgment to make sure the product you're putting out meet high safety standards. And you said buses will not allowed to be going to the subdivision. So 1,600 feet, kids have to walk, and they have to walk in the street to get to 278. I like for you to explain the safety practices on that with sidewalks, not on neither side of either street.
I guess my thought is that I live in a neighborhood very similar to this, very similar layout, not quite as big of a lot. And my kids have always, walked down our street to get to the main entrance. Similar lot count as this. My kids we use the street for running, biking. There's such a low number of lots that the overall number of trips throughout the development are really low. And so that's the intent here. With 34 lots total, it's not a whole lot of trips.
They say that it's not supposed to exceed over 70, but it could be in average one of these houses, it could be 3 cars, and that would be 99 trips in the morning. because husband and wife work, they have children with cars. So that's
Yeah, I think we could do it.
99
Yeah.
rather than they calculating it 2 at 66, it would fall somewhere between 85 and 100. Then you got people coming in there gonna be doing service thing when those houses are there.
Do we know that
And
the
this
school,
is geared toward, excuse me?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna ask, do we know if the school district won't go in the neighborhood or?
Mr. Powell saying that the way the subdivision gonna be set up, they're not gonna allow buses in there. That's the reason I asked the question.
No, I think no, that the buses are welcome to come in if they are able to. As I was asking earlier, is the bus is not allowed to kind of come in and have a central collection point internal to the lots.
Are those cul-de-sac in diameter enough for a school bus to turn around in there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're wide enough for school buses, fire trucks, any kind of, larger diameter vehicles.
Yes, Mr. Pinckney, the fire marshal did sign off. They're wide enough for his fire trucks to turn around at the cul-de-sacs.
Or you could take your map back down.
Okay.
So are there any questions or comment from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion, Commissioner Jenkins.
I'm not calling for a motion at this time, Mr. Jenkins. The floor is open for any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners. No question or comment from any of the commissioners? So I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Mr. Jenkins, offer approval of the preliminary plat phase 1 of the North Point subdivision known as the NEMA Smart Tract, providing that all of the commissioners' concerns be addressed. I would like to offer a motion that this be approved.
Or you need to make a straight motion, not a conditional motion on
Well,
on
Mr.
this.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that the approval of the preliminary plat for phase 1 of the North Point subdivision known as the NEMA Smart Tract be approved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Jenkins, second by Mr. Art. Ready for question? Hearing none, all in favor of such motion, let it know by raising your hand. See. Raise your hand again. Oh, okay. I see, Mr. Way. All right, the motion has been carried. So as ordered.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
The next thing on our agenda is new business, is a zoning map amendment and conceptual plan approval, plan development district, Chelsea South tax map number 081-00-02-008. Ms. Wagner, will you bring us up to date?
Yes, sir. The applicant is requesting an approval of a planned development district zoning designation for a mixed-use development, which will be known as Chelsea South PDD. Included with the zoning map amendment application is a PDD document and concept plan. The project site consists of 291.7 acres and is located along Snake Road, just west of the intersection of Highway 170 and Snake Road. The property is currently zoned rural preservation and is undeveloped. In accordance with Article 8.1 of the Jasper County zoning ordinance, the intent of a PDD is to encourage flexibility in the development of land to promote its most appropriate use and to do so in a manner that will enhance public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The PDD regulations are intended to accomplish the purpose of zoning and other applicable regulations to an equivalent or higher degree and are designed to control unscheduled development on individual lots or tracts, promote economical and efficient land use, provide an improved level of amenities, foster a harmonious variety of uses, encourage creative design, and produce a better environment. In view of the substantial public advantage of planned development, it is the intent of the PDD regulations to promote and encourage or require development in this form where appropriate in character, timing, and location, particularly in large undeveloped tracts. All PDDs shall conform to the Jasper County Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the Land Use Map. According to the 2018 Jasper County Comprehensive Plan, the future land use map identifies this area as rural conservation. Rural conservation seeks to protect and promote the character of Jasper County that largely exists today outside of the municipalities. In these areas, new development should be thoughtfully placed within the existing landscape. The land use chapter of the comprehensive plan recommends guiding growth and new development in or around the municipalities where infrastructure and services are available to serve new growth. While this project site is not near a municipality, it is located in an area where infrastructure and services are available to serve the site. As far as the adjacent land uses and adjacent zoning designations, to the north of the property is Chelsea Plantation. It's zoned rural preservation. To the northeast is single family residential and the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority's headquarters, and that's in Beaufort County. To the east is the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority's water canal. Across the canal is commercial, and some of that zoned general commercial and some of it zoned community commercial. To the south is primarily vacant land, and there is a mobile home park, and the Centerpoint PDD is nearby, and there's that zoning to the south is community commercial and residential with the PDD nearby. And to the west, it's vacant property and it's zoned rural preservation. The subject property is accessed by Snake Road, which is a 2-lane state maintained highway classified as collector road. The Chelsea South PDD concept plan illustrates the proposed uses, the general layout, and access points. A master plan will be submitted separately and will provide additional information regarding the layout of the development. The concept plan does seek to establish 2 full access points on Snake Road. Single family residential land use, multifamily residential, community commercial, and mixed use commercial. A maximum density of 438 units for single family residential, 269 units for multifamily residential, 69,600 square feet of community commercial, and 315,000 square feet of mixed use commercial. A minimum of 30% open space is provided based on the total acreage, with only 50% of the wetlands counting towards the open space. And then the perimeter of the boundary of the property boundary would have a 20-foot buffer. The setbacks for detached single-family units will be 15 feet from the rear property line, 6 feet from the side yard property lines, 20 feet from the front yard setbacks for lots with front-loaded garages, and 15 feet front yard setbacks for lots with side-loaded garages. Townhomes or condominiums will have 6 feet side yard setbacks, 15 front yard setbacks with front-loaded garages, and 5-foot front yard setbacks with front-loaded garages. The single-family residential may include zero lot line products subject to the master plan review, and will include townhouses, patio homes, and cottages. And then the landscaping will meet or exceed the county's requirements. A full environmental assessment of the site has been conducted, as well as a full traffic impact analysis. The Chelsea South PDD meets all the requirements for a PDD application and concept plan as outlined in the Jasper County zoning ordinance. Staff has notified the adjacent property owners. We've sent a letter to them, and we've placed 2 red signs along Snake Road. A zoning designation of PDD, again, does not entitle an applicant or owner of the affected property a right to develop or engage in any land use or land disturbance activity other than the rights in existence at the time of the concept plan approval. To engage in development or land use or land disturbance activity, a master plan and subsequent development plan must be approved for the areas to be developed. While the concept plan is very generalized, a master plan is a more refined document which will be reassessed by the Planning Commission at a future date. The PDD application is supported by the comprehensive plan, and staff recommends approval of the rezoning designation and the concept plan. And Mr. Pinckney, I would just point out to you, I did receive 2 phone calls from the signs being placed on the property, and one of the persons submitted a comment, and he just is from Mr. Jerry Stokes. He's to the west of this site, and he just says, I own the property adjacent to this new construction, and he would just like to be assured that the excess water will not be drained on my property. He said that was his only concern.
Okay. Mr. Wade, what comments or question do you have at this time?
Well, who is representing the?
Sorry, the applicants are here.
Thank you. Hey, the representative for this project is who?
It's Mr. Baker, Mark Baker with Wooden Partners. The developer, Mr. Quinley's with them, and I see Miss Nicole Scott, who's the legal representative. I'm sorry, I don't know the other person in the room.
Yeah, it's all right.
Dylan.
Yeah,
Turner.
Dylan Turner, the traffic engineer.
Kimley Horn.
With Kimley Horn, yeah.
Okay.
And we do have some
Okay,
comments we'd like to make if allowed, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please. I apologize for moving too forward fast.
Okay.
The commission is ready to hear from you.
Okay, no problem. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and Lisa, thank you for your hard work in getting us where we are today. We're going to share our screen and go over a very brief presentation with you, and then we'll turn it over to you for questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to answer those questions going forward. So we are here today to talk about the Chelsea South Plan Development District zoning map amendment in Jasper County. Members of our team, what we're going to do today is very briefly introduce members of our team, which is Michael Quinley, and then Ryan Strickland with Mungo Homes is on the call. The planning team includes Wooden Partners for land planning, myself and Eric Walsonovich as senior project manager on the project. We've got Willie Powell just teleported in from the other meeting. and he's on board for civil engineering. And then we've got Nicole Scott here with us with Nexon Pruitt, real estate attorneys, helped us with the development agreement, and then Dylan Turner with traffic. So we're going to briefly go over the project location, the development vision, and the conceptual master plan. We prepared conceptual utility plans, and then wrap up with a review of the traffic impacts and development agreement. So first, just a brief word about Chelsea Plantation, the owner, and Michael, your background.
Yeah, Chelsea Plantation, they own 3 tracts of property here in Jasper County, totaling about 5,600 acres. They purchased this in 2020. Chelsea South, the property in front of you, is just part of that holding, and we're excited to bring that to you. My company is a real estate development company, and we assist clients like Chelsea Plantation in their development needs, and we appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And then Ryan, if you want to just make a few comments about Mungo Homes. Very excited to have Mungo Homes involved to be the first phase and then single family attached and detached residences.
Well, thank you, Mark and Michael. This is Ryan Strickland, land manager for Mungo Homes. Thanks for your time this evening. If you guys are aware, we're currently in the area. Mungo Homes has had some success north of the Broad River. We're currently building in Shell Point Farm in Point Royal. We'd like to continue our success in the area, and we'd like to partner up with Jasper County and continue to grow in the area with the county. And we're looking forward to working with the county on this quality plan development.
And we really love their quote. Many of the Mungo Home team members live in the communities in which they develop. So these, Mungo is very committed to high quality residential community and placemaking. So we're very pleased to have them be the developer for the residential. The site is ideally located. It's in that large triangle of land between 170, 462, and Snake Road at the intersection of Chelsea Plantation. It's right across Snake Road from the Beaufort Jasper County Water Sewer Service buildings. And the eastern boundary is the Beaufort Jasper County Canal, water canal that runs along the eastern boundary of this site. The site development vision is to produce a high quality residential community with a mix of both commercial and residential development that would be developed over the next 8 to 10 years. Project can provide much needed high quality single family and multifamily development along this important corridor. It will include generous recreation amenities, walks, trails, open space, pools, club facilities, things of that nature, and then 116 acres of wetland is going to be preserved. The total acreage is 290 acres, almost 292 acres. Current site is zoned, as Lisa mentioned, rural preservation. Elevations are from 10 to 20 and is relatively flat, and the property has no flood zones. Property includes 166 acres of upland and about 125 of non-jurisdictional wetlands. The only impacts for the wetlands are going to be road crossings. We'll keep those to a minimum, of course, go for Corps of Engineer and OCRM permits on those. Soils are good. We've conducted a threatened and endangered species historic and archaeology survey and a phase 1 environmental. None of these studies have shown any development constraints that would limit any of the development. And we've done a traffic impact assessment, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and then prepared conceptual water and sewer and storm drainage, and have letters of intent to serve from all the utility providers. So here's the master plan. We're fortunate to have commitment to set aside this 116 acre woodland, wetland, non-jurisdictional wetland as open space, primarily phase 1, which will be Mungo Homes, a single family, couple of mixed use commercial tracts you can see in the D2 and D1 tracts, and then multifamily along a new collector road, sub-collector road, which will be developed in the property, and then a small community commercial site on the corner by Snake Road. We've prepared conceptual water and sewer and storm drainage plans. And as we've mentioned, we've gotten letters of intent to serve from all the utility providers and are in good shape there. Very excited to have Mungo Homes as part of the development team, as we mentioned, high quality single family homes and townhomes, which will help provide much needed residential. Multifamily will be 4-story, as you can see in this typical sort of illustration. The idea is to make sure that we can allow the sort of 4-story to be coated well below tree line and in scale and in mass with the community. The property includes 60% of the upland acres are residential, so the majority of the development is residential. Their community commercial and mixed use commercial are make up 19% and 3%, and then multifamily right at 10%. The non-jurisdictional wetlands that are outside the development tract is 116 acres. And then the sub-collector road is about 3 acres. So you can see the development parcels. Single family attached and detached at 4 DU per acre, 438 units. And then there's a multifamily parcel tract C, which is 16 DU per acre, 269 units. And then you can see the commercial parcels, the tracts D2 and D1 and D2. At 10,000 square feet per acre, and then tract B, the small parcel up at the corner, at 12,000 square feet per acre. The traffic impact assessment, and what I'd like to do is hand
it over. Yeah. So we did the traffic impact analysis. We sent it over to SCDOT for their review. They're still reviewing it. Phase 1 considered the 438 single family units. We lost our presentation, but that's all right. And we had,
hold on. I'll go back. I don't know why that went off. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It is.
It's getting a little glitchy. Well, that's all right. What we'll do is just pull up this slide right here. There you go.
Yeah, it's a few back. This is the, there we go. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. So phase 1, 438 single family units with a 69,600 square foot storage facility. So mini warehouse. Phase 2 considered built out in 2031, had multifamily units and 110,000 square feet of retail. And access to the site was assumed to be 3 full movement stop controlled accesses along Snake Road. And then we did improvements, substantial improvements for phase 2 for SC 170 and Snake Road. And then improvements to the site access on Snake Road and improvements at SC 462 and Snake Road. The map on the left just shows the study area that we did for the traffic study. And the graphic to the right is the improvements. So here's a zoomed in version. So phase 1, we'd have left turn lanes into each access point. D2 is actually phase 2, so that's why you don't see any red arrows for D2. And then the green arrows are the phase 2 improvement. So if you go down to Snake Road and SC 170, have dual lefts going from 170 onto Snake Road, dual lefts leaving Snake Road, and exclusive right turn lane. And that's what we would need to do to mitigate the traffic volume there.
Motion detected at the front.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dylan. And then Nicole, if we could have you just talk briefly about the development agreement.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Y'all are familiar with development agreements and their purpose, which the biggest one of all is to provide certainty for both the county government and for the developer as they move forward. And it helps to strengthen the planning process because everybody's starting the development with the same page. If you could flip the slide. So we are currently in the process of negotiating the development agreement with the county staff. We have submitted a draft. We're waiting on comments back from them. But what we have proposed in the development agreement, some of the more interesting terms for the planning commission would be development fees for road, safety, school, library, and parks. They would total altogether $3,220 per single family dwelling unit and $1,288 per multifamily dwelling unit. And then the commercial and retail fees vary by use. So I didn't specify those, but there are fees for those uses as well. We're proposed a term of 30 years as allowed under the Act. And the owner has proposed to convey 2 acres for a fire facility, as the county has informed us that they really need a fire station over on this side of the county. So the owners agreed to donate that land. They will receive a credit against any fire development fees. So those are kind of the big picture issues that we're working with them on. As I said, we're waiting for comments. So we're kind of early on in the process with regard to the development agreement. It's a separate process than the PD that's before you. And when, of course, as well as these issues and matters that we've listed here, the traffic and the traffic improvements will also be addressed in that development agreement. So happy to answer any questions on the development agreement you may have. And I believe the team is available for any questions you may have regarding the conceptual plan, the PD, and traffic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nicole. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, for giving us the opportunity to be before you today. And we're just would like to open it up to any questions that you may have of us on any of the points or content of the application.
Mr. Wade, you can go first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you've gone over most of what I had. I'm mostly concerned with the traffic impact on how you're actually going to be bringing in the traffic to this subdivision. I see that you're going to be bringing in 2 off of Snake Road, it looks like. And I'm assuming that you've already have either a development agreement or something, some type of agreement with Jasper County Water or Jasper Sewer, Jasper County Water and Sewer Authority about crossing the canal. Is that correct?
The canal crossing is subject to the development progress. We don't know that we're going to cross that canal on the southwest. It'll be determined by the development market as we move forward. However, having said that, if we do cross the canal, we'll definitely work with Beaufort Jasper County to make sure that canal and its crossing is done in a way that meets their design standards.
All right. Well, what I'm trying to determine is, I mean, have you already had discussions with the authority about this or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We had some discussions with them, but we don't know for sure that it has a lot of issues as it results to they use that to service the ponds. And so when we asked Dylan to run the traffic impacts, he ran the impacts without that access. So that would capture the worst case of traffic. So we would make sure we were creating the best situation for the development.
Okay. And my next question is I'm assuming that the developer or y'all own the parcels across the road from the canal?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. Right.
And those are, Ms. Wade, those are currently not part of the PDD because they're already zoned commercial, sir.
Okay. All right. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Dr. Buckner?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just have a couple of things. In the environmental site assessment, one of the findings was related to the historical application of pesticides and herbicides. And I wonder, can you speak to that at all? I mean, when you get that kind of result and you're going to have children in a community, what do you do? What do you think about that? I mean, what is the next step? I know it's low potential, but that does mean there is a potential there for that to be in the soil.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent point. And as we begin to move forward with development plans, we're going to have to do some testing on the site to just verify whether or not that potential does exist. Right now, we don't believe that it does, but since forestry, practices were in place there, there's the potential for it. So we just have to go out and do some soil testing and verify that. And if we do, then we find that would have to be remediated.
Oh, okay. Lisa, will that be reported back to us, or is that just, how is that handled on our side?
Well, again, when they come in for master plan approval, you'll get to see this, and at that time, they'll know more about the site as well.
Okay.
So, yes, ma'am.
Okay. The other question I have is in regard to the threatened and endangered species assessment. Under the conclusions, do you think it says should significant time lapse between the issuance of this report and development of the property, it is strongly recommended that an update of this report be completed because of some of the habitat that may be migratory that you may not have captured during this assessment. And I just wondered if that will happen and if we'll get an updated report of that, or how is that handled?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's a good point. The environment is a dynamic situation. It changes and evolves over time. We just need to make sure that we're keeping a keen eye on habitat and possible, placement or population of birds. So as we move forward, we'll definitely keep an eye on that and prepare updates as you go. Michael?
Yeah, that becomes part of when we do like Lisa said, though. We'll have another bite at that whenever we produce the next plan. We have to also update that report as part of that.
Good
Okay,
question.
all right.
Good question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I have one last thing, and this goes to the development agreement. I noticed, I heard you say, or the speaker say that you would be setting aside 2 acres for fire, but I wondered if you had considered setting aside acreage for schools.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Nicole.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We, as part of our property that we own, we have, when we first met with the staff on the pre-application meeting, we discussed, we have a piece of property at the end of Snake Road on 462 that's we call it Chelsea West, and it's about 250 acres, and we would entertain. That's where we thought we could donate a fire station. The chief at the time said, hey, I'd like it closer to the property, but we would still be open, and we would be, it's part of our negotiations to look at working with the school board, because we do have some additional property there on 462 that we could entertain that.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ferguson?
No, sir, nothing at this time.
Dr. Boston?
I had a question because how do you respond to the opening statement that Ms. Wagner made about the gentleman not wanting the runoff to come into his property on the west portion, I believe it was. The other question is,
you can handle it.
when we start talking about development agreement, is that something that we're going to be voting on?
They don't vote on it.
I'm sorry, was that a question about the development
Yeah, they
agreement?
That's something they vote on.
No, that is not something you all vote on. We provided that for
That's just something
information.
that's just something they put in there for our information only.
Right, that's correct.
We strive to be as transparent as we can be, and we wanted to include everything possible.
So we have Willie Powell here. He's going to address the question regarding storm drainage and possible impacts on adjacent neighbors.
Yeah, so the 125, actually, good evening again. It's Willie from Ward Edwards. So with having the large wetland that kind of bisects the property, we will have to meet all Jasper County and state and federal requirements for water quality and water control. And that wetland also will serve as the conveyance for any excess runoff beyond those, advanced controls, which will protect that property. But per the DA and the Jasper Code, we will achieve both Jasper County and state stormwater controls for water quality and water quantity. So we'll have those things in place. And the site, kind of on the stormwater master plan, you can see there's maybe a dozen or so ponds kind of interspersed throughout the property.
Okay, Lisa, with what you just said, would that address the young man's question that wrote you the letter?
Yes, sir. It will. Our ordinance wouldn't allow for them to be able to drain in a negative way to impact anybody, to the west, to the east, north, or south. So they'll have to, like he said, South Carolina Department of Health Environmental Control will do a review on it, and so will Jasper County. We also have a stormwater manual. So best management practices will be accounted for.
And Lisa, we're happy to meet with Mr. Stokes and show him the land plan so he can see that the wetlands are still the buffer between his property. And I think he's going to be very excited about that.
Yeah, I actually sent him the plan. I sent him the
Awesome.
stormwater exhibit. And so that's when he said, well, that's my only comment and I'm okay with everything else as long as it doesn't come to him. So he'll be fine, Miss Dr. Bostic.
Okay. This, and I'm sure you're talking about all this and this is in your plan. Will our rivers be affected in any way by this project?
The storm drainage plan is going to have best management practices, which will treat and prepare stormwater before any discharges occur. But the good point about this site is that it's not adjacent to the rivers. None of this property falls next to critical areas or the coastal council freshwater marshes. So, we're inland a good bit, but more to the point, all of the storm drainage is going to have to be properly treated before discharge. Okay.
That's all I have, Lisa.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm an advocate of affordable housing. And I notice you keep saying these are high quality housing. And you at liberty tonight to tell us one of these houses would be on the market, what it would cost. And I think when you had your chart up, there was something like a 30-year. Are any of these houses going to fall under Section 8?
I'll let Ron address.
I think about what people makes in Jasper County, and when it comes to building these houses, I'm concerned that people in Jasper County can afford one.
Ryan, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Mr. Jenkins, that's a great question. One we actually have often these days. It's really hard for us to give a exact dollar amount, given that the actual homes for sale will not be built for another 18 months, 2 years, possibly 30 months. But given today's dollars, we're striving for obtainable housing, which that price point in today's world is probably around the mid 200s to mid 300s, which is comparable to the adjacent communities, kind of north to south. We do strive to provide a quality community and meet that, obtainable housing that you're requesting. So that is one of our goals as we develop into within Jasper County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Art?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for, someone in the development group. I'm looking at Appendix H. It's a multicolored layout of the proposed development and running, we'll call it parallel to 170. it shows track D1, track C, and track B. Is everyone with me?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, the 110,000 proposed shopping center, the location of that, would that be in track D1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and traffic coming in and out of that, would that be directed to Snake Road, or is there a way that it's going to impact 170?
Yes, sir. Our intent is to, right now, we're planning all the traffic, which is the worst case, is to have everything go to 170. I'm sorry, everything go to Snake Road.
Okay, that was
I apologize.
good answer. Good answer.
Yeah,
Okay. And the mini warehouse, is that going on track D2 or is that track B?
Track B, sir.
Track B.
Track B. Okay, so basically all of the, and the ingress and egress to Snake Road looks really good. And this is just sort of a general concern that I have, is that with the development like this, and it's good that the traffic flows to Snake Road, eventually it's going to wind its way back to 170. And as a resident who used to make good use of 170, but no longer does that since January 1st, 170 has become a road that right now typically will back up for about an hour and a half each morning and afternoon, going from 278 to, there are times it'll back up to Argent Way. And this is just the feeder going in there. And it's just a general comment for really for the commissioners as much as the developers, that as all of these projects take place, at some point, and I hope that when we see a full-fledged traffic report, that some of this will be addressed. Because I know in this development, you've got, we'll just call it 1,000 homes, 70,000 feet of mini warehouse, and 110,000 square feet of shopping center. That's a large center. Even if you've got one, 2 small box stores, those are big traffic generators. And quite often that intersection has become, it's a tough one to navigate at times.
Yeah, and Art, I can speak to that. So we've prepared a full traffic study, should be sent over to the county. But we have in phase 1, which is the single family and the warehouse. So tract A and B, correct?
Correct.
We have southbound right turn lane, which helps with this thing called an overlap at the signal. So we can get efficiencies there with the signal. Right. Full development, we have some pretty substantial improvements to keep the build out level service and delay to what it was before the site came on. So we addressed the issues there at Snake Road and 170 with dual lefts. So eastbound lefts from 170 onto Snake Road, which would require another lane to accept those dual lefts leaving Snake Road and that additional right. So we have the lanes provide not only capacity, but ways to make the traffic signal operate more efficiently with the included traffic. So we've got that addressed in the traffic study.
So you're saying there's enough existing, I'll call it in layman's terms, road width at that intersection to provide those turning lanes, and
we would have to add width.
You will
that
have
intersection. Yes, yeah. It's not modifying the existing laneage. We'd have to add width there.
Gotcha. Okay. Those are my only comments, but then thank you for addressing them.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, I have a couple questions. On page 36, you got there's 100 9 acres of upland, 114 acres gross acres, and there's a 5.3 wetlands. What's your anticipation on those lot sizes?
On the lot sizes,
Yes. Are you showing for single family? It's going to be 113, 109.5 acres for development upland.
the steps. Yeah, it's not hitting my page out. Yeah. The lots, Ryan, you want to go through the lot sizes?
Yes, sir. Right now, the current plan that's in yellow, it's sketched in about 120-foot deep lots. That's our common lot that we build around here. Again, a good example. If you'd like to see it in person or check out our website, it's Shell Point Farm in Fort Royal. That's one of the products we're proposing. Those lot widths range from about anywhere between 45 and 55 foot. That's the width. So it'd be 45,
Okay.
about an average width of 50 foot by 120 foot deep. Would be the detached single family lot.
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with Mungo. I've seen several of y'all development in Columbia, South Carolina.
It would be very
And
similar to what
y'all
we
does
Columbia
excellent
and Shell Point.
Excuse me.
It would
Speak a little louder. I didn't hear you.
Go ahead.
Of the subdivision that you have in Columbia.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, the subdivision I've seen there, I was very excited and happy about them. Fact of the matter, some years ago, I purchased one of y'all houses in Columbia. It's been about 12 years ago. So I know that y'all produce a quality product and everything looks real well. And I was very excited about it. Are there any other questions or comments from any other commissioners?
Chairman Pinckney, this is Deborah Butler. Something occurred to me in listening to the conversation. May I ask a question?
Yes. Let's go ahead, Dr. Butler.
Okay. Given the proximity of this property to the Beaufort Jasper Canal, and I haven't seen the canal. I don't know if they have a right of way on each side. Are there requirements in place that will protect the water supply from runoff from your development? I'm feel sure there would have to be.
Yes, Dr. Butler, absolutely. And we've even met with them, and Willie's here with us again. And we talked about we added some additional buffers in that area that wasn't required, but inside their fenced area, they also have a buffer on their side of the property because they actually have a road that runs on the outer side of their canal that they use to service the canal.
Oh,
so
okay.
it creates a natural buffer and then the other side of the road, and then you get to the canal. So it gives you quite a bit of depth there. And that was part of our other reasoning up at the entrance of where we placed and where we've talked about doing the public storage was so it could go around their power station there and provide additional buffers, because that won't be a heavy traffic. People put stuff in their storage unit. They don't come every day to the storage unit, and that gave us an additional opportunity to buffer that area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions, comments from any other the commissioners? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
This is Deborah Butler. I recommend that we accept the staff's recommendation to recommend to County Council the approval of plan development district and concept plan for tax map number 081-00-02-008.
I'll second that.
Motion have been made by Dr. Buckner that the recommendation go to County Council to approve this conceptual plan development district, Chelsea South, second by Mr. Wade. Ready for question? Hearing none. All in favor of such motion, let it know by a show of hand. Okay, the vote is unanimous, so your project is approved to go to County Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Council, Commission.
And thank you, Lisa, for all of your assistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Okay. The next item is on our agenda. B, zoning map amendment and a conceptual plan approval, plan development district, CSP development tax map number 041-00-03-030. Ms. Wagner, would you bring us up to date?
Yes, sir. The applicant's requesting an approval of a plan development district zoning designation for mixed use development, which will be known as CSP development. Included with the zoning map amendment applications, a PDD document and concept plan. The project site consists of 38.8 acres and is located along Independence Boulevard between Brickyard Road and Hilton Head Lakes. The property is currently zoned rural preservation and is undeveloped. According to the 2018 Jasper County Comprehensive Plan, the future land use map identifies this area as urban transition, which are pockets of unincorporated Jasper County that are partially or entirely surrounded by the municipality. For these areas that experience new development or redevelopment, consideration should be given to working with the adjacent municipality for annexation. The land use chapter of the comprehensive plan recommends guiding growth and new development in or around the municipalities where infrastructure and services are available to serve new growth. The adjacent land uses and adjacent zoning to the north of the property is vacant. It's zoned PDD through the city of Hardyville. To the south is Highway 278, but across Highway 278 is vacant and Margaritaville, and it's zoned PDD through the city of Hardyville. To the west of the site, it's residential, and the zoning's residential through Jasper County. Also to the west is the prime storage unit, which is zone general commercial in through the city of Hardyville. And to the east of the site is vacant and Hilton Head Lakes, which is PDD, zone PDD through the city of Hardyville. And the subject property is accessed by Independence Boulevard, which is a 4-lane state maintained highway classified as an arterial road. CSP's development's concept plan illustrates the general layout, the arrangement of land uses and access points. A master plan will be submitted separately and will provide additional information regarding the layout of the development. The PDD, the CSP PDD concept plan, it seeks to establish 3 full access points. 2 would be on Independence Boulevard, where there are already existing median cuts, and 1 on Brickyard Road. Brickyard Road, like dead ends right at their western boundary. As far as the and I said a mixed use, but really it's just a residential community with mixed housing products. So the allowed land use is single family residential and amenities such as a clubhouse, swimming pool, mail kiosk, playground, fields, trails, etc. And the density would be 275 residential units for rent and the amenities to support the communities. The open space would be 10%. Setbacks and buffers, it would be 50-foot buffers provided along the western boundary line and also along Independence Boulevard, which is Highway 278, and a 20-foot buffer around the remaining perimeter. No internal setbacks are proposed. However, the International Fire Code will be met. This community would be located on one lot, so it wouldn't be a subdivision of properties. It would be one lot that won't be subdivided. And some of the single family products may consist of cottages, townhouses, patio homes, and villas. And the landscaping standards will meet or exceed the county's requirements. The CSP PDD and concept plan meets all the requirements for a PDD application and concept plan as outlined in Article 817 of the Jasper County zoning ordinance, except for a full traffic study. However, a traffic narrative, including the trip generations and trip distribution, has been included in Exhibit Q. Notices have been sent to all the adjacent property owners, notifying them of the applicant's request to have the property designated as PDD and providing them with an opportunity to comment. In addition, 2 zoning application signs have been placed along Independence Boulevard. Again, this will come back to you for a master plan approval. So the approval of the PDD does not entitle them, the applicant or the owner of the affected property, any right to develop or engage in any land use or land disturbance activity until the master plan and subsequent development plans have been approved. This is supported by the comprehensive plan as far as the PDD designation. Staff does recommend approval of the designation and the concept plan with the following conditions: that a traffic impact analysis be provided prior to or at time of the master plan application submittal. And the applicant's with us, but also I've received a comment from Hardyville that if I'm in order, I will go ahead and share with you.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Wagner.
So this says, this is from Brianna Snowden, Director of Planning and Development. It says, members of the Jasper County Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the above referenced project. It is disappointing that we had no knowledge of this project until approximately 8 hours prior to your meeting, which puts the city of Hardyville in the difficult position of having to provide meaningful comments in a short time frame. In the spirit of cooperation, we have attempted to offer some preliminary thoughts for your consideration. For many years, it's been the policy for properties in proximity to the city boundaries to be placed in the Rural Preservation District by Jasper County until such time as development was proposed. In the past, with the joint plan and agreement, Jasper County has suggested to potential developers that they annex into the city of Hardyville to provide a more consistent level of delivery of public services and close any donut holes that exist in the city's border. The US 278 corridor is an important gateway for the city, and a Highway 278 overlay district was created to address the following: congestion and access management, economic development and reinvestment, aesthetics and reduction of blight, improved accessibility, compatibility, and continuity in the corridor, protect infrastructure investment, stormwater management, and flood control. To review and approve this development independently of other pending proposed projects would be contrary to our cooperative planning efforts in the corridor and not allow for an informed design. Since this project is located between two critical intersections, the city will communicate closely with South Carolina DOT to ensure that access and traffic improvements are complementary to other proposed developments in the corridor and do not adversely impact those projects. The city would welcome the opportunity to discuss this project with county staff and the developer and respectfully request that the project be tabled. And I would just like to say, as I did write back and let her know I would share these comments, but I didn't intentionally not. I always do try to seek their to give them an opportunity to comment. It's just been such a busy, hectic time. It just literally has slipped my mind. But also I wanted to make her aware, you know, they have a planning commission, and one wrong doesn't mean that you do another wrong. No matter what they do, I continue to try and do the right thing. But they have planning commission meeting tomorrow, and I haven't even received an agenda, much less any notification of what's on the agenda. And the same thing for last month. And I've been asking them. I've even sent a Freedom of Information request back in 2018 or 19, because in 2017, I respectfully requested that y'all receive their planning commission agendas and that we receive them. And I still couldn't get them. So I filed a FOIA, a Freedom of Information, and I still didn't get them. And just last year, I've gotten a few, just hit or miss. I bet I've gotten 6 in a year's time. So just to put that out there, they refuse to communicate with us about projects, but I still intended to give them an opportunity to comment, and it wasn't done intentional.
Okay, Ms. Wagner, we appreciate that. And we're gonna hear from the applicant. Mr. Peter.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Chairman, members of the commission, and Lisa. Thanks a whole bunch for the guidance over the couple of months that we've been working on this. I own a company called Cottage Street Partners. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. Our business is land investment and land development. We've been in the business for now about 40 years. We've worked up and down the East Coast, from as far as Massachusetts to southern Georgia. We used to have an office in Atlanta to conduct our activities in the Southeast. And we've been looking at trying to launch a project in your neck of the woods for many years. And luckily, we found this piece of property and decided to put it under contract. Point of clarification that we are the contract purchasers of the property. And we have worked with our team to put together what we think is a very good single-family rental residential community for Jasper County. I'm going to take a strategic pause here, and if you don't mind, and thank Dr. Bostic. As you may observe, my name is not Irish. It is Ukrainian, and I do have family in Ukraine, which is dealing with the issues that we're all dealing with here on this side of the pond, so to speak. And your kind words are much appreciated. Thank you. That being said, the project is going to be or is planned to be, proposed to be, a single-family rental community. It's going to be comprised of principally single-family detached homes. Generally, in general appearance, they're going to be like cottages. And of the 265 homes that we have presently planned, I think all but 48 are going to be single-family detached homes, all with garages. And the balance are going to be 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, I think about 48 units of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom townhouse units that will be surface park. There will not be an HOA. I'm not sure how familiar you are with single-family residential communities. There will not be an HOA. There will not be a subdivision. It will be one lot. There will be one tax bill, and there will be one owner. I call it, the landlord, the benevolent czar, if you will, who will be responsible for the upkeep of every home, its interiors, its exteriors, its lawns, its yards, its roads, and will be, for all practical purposes, in perpetuity. And there are a few single-family rental communities in the area, but mostly to the east of us. There are some nationally in the Savannah area. We had a property under contract in Port Wentworth for a while, which did not pass muster, if you will. And we were impressed by a community that maybe one or more of you may be familiar with it was called Jasper Village in Rincon, Georgia, up 21. And it's a very attractive single family rental community. And our model is generally something very similar to that. And so if you were to go on a website and it was sold last year, it's now called the Leo at the Sanctuary. If you were to Google Leo at the Sanctuary, you'll get a feel for what the product is and the type of homes that are built. And frankly, they're all very attractive. The community amenities are going to be first class from the standpoint of green space area, multi-purpose yard, pool, clubhouse, amenity, fitness center, the customary suspects, if you will. But every home will have a yard, both a front yard and a backyard. And like I said, with the exception of the townhouses themselves, they will all have a single car garage. With respect to the Mr. Jenkins, you mentioned or brought up the issue of affordable housing with respect to the last applicant. Our single family rental communities like this one are like in-betweeners. I'll call them betweeners. People that typically rent in single family residential communities in suburban areas are generally people that are renters by choice. And because of the type of product that we're proposing, and by virtue of the fact that it's right next door to Margaritaville, which was like the number 34 master plan community in the country last year, sold 500 plus homes. The average price of a home there was $350,000, $360,000. But to sell 500 homes, you need to generate traffic, about 10 to 15 people, visitors, to sell one home. So you have a lot of people that are, well, let's call them, probably active independent adults coming from another part of the world. Let's say it's the policeman or the teacher in New Jersey or New York or Vermont, and they have their pension. They harvest the equity out of their homes. They want to, they have the dream, if you will, like a lot of Northeasterners do, of moving to your part of the world to retire and enjoy their retirement independent living years. And they will look at places where they have to redeploy their capital that they've harvest their equity that they've harvested from their home, and see if they can get by on living on their savings or pensions. So you take that demographic, if you will, and they'll look at a thing like in Margaritaville, and they'll drive away. And as you know, we're going to be right frontage on 278, but 5 miles or less from 95. And by the way, the critical intersection that Hardyville mentioned was the signalized intersection at correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, Medical Center Boulevard, which is right adjacent to 95. It's right off the intersection. And the next nearest signalized intersection is another almost just under 4 miles away towards I want to call it, say, downtown Bluffton. But the long and short of it is that they're going to look and say, a renter here can say, I can get my home, my single family detached home with a garage, with a yard. I can keep my harvested capital, home equity in the bank, okay? And I can live off my pension because somebody else has taken care of the home. Let's go to the flip side. Let's go to the the aging millennial, the employee that is working in the local Walmart or car dealership, or he's taking care of the golf course, on Hilton Head, okay, and they have to drive, if you will, to their points, their areas of employment, and they can't afford to live in the community that they work in. Okay, maybe they can get an apartment, a multifamily apartment, in a garden apartment complex, and all the power to them. And to a lot of them, that's their choice. Their other choice is to not live where they work, and they have to commute, if you will, to those locations from afar. So because it's sort of the drive till you qualify equation. Single family rental communities offer a different option. They can afford the single family detached home. Let's say the aging millennial, okay, that was a his and her couple that when they graduated from college with their college debt, they moved into a garden apartment nearby, and they were happy to pay the rent. They had separate jobs in different locales, the spouses, but all of a sudden, guess what? Just like everybody on the face of the planet, families, okay, and they're in their apartment building. They're still paying off their college debt. They'd love to own a home, okay, where they have a yard where they can park their garage and park their car in their garage, and raise their kids where they can, let the kid loose on the backyard or play in the playground down the street, and have connectivity to, the fabric of Jasper County and Hardeeville. Okay. Well, we offer the alternative to that side. So they can still afford, there's a premium to go from a box in an apartment building to a single family detached home or townhouse. Okay. But it's still rental. And there's still a benevolent czar, if you will, that takes care of the home product, both its interior, its exterior. When the roof leaks, it's the landlord. When the washer dryer breaks, it's the landlord. When the heating and HVAC go away, it's the landlord. And when the street needs to be repaired because of a pothole or some other issue, it's the landlord. Okay, and that's the kind of Jenkins, I characterize it as naturally affordable. Okay, it's not targeted to be Section 8 housing. Okay, but it is an option of affordability to live in a home, a single family detached home or an attached home, and to raise families, or if you're an independent active adult, to enjoy those independent active adult years where you can essentially lock and leave and go. So that's the type of community that I have envisioned. And the land itself, it's a island of uplands. We have of the 40 acres, 1.5 acres of regulated wetlands, and it's along the northern perimeter of the property. We're fronting a highway. It's not like we're in downtown somewhere where we're in a urban or suburban type of area where we're bumping into significant, high density communities. Yeah, there's Hilton Head Lakes North and there's Margaritaville, but completely different product and a completely different demographic. So that's who we are. I'd like to answer whatever questions you have about the community. I can, if you like, bring up the certain exhibits if you care. But my development team is Thomas and Hutton. I see that Scott Monson and Lamar Mercer are here this evening from Thomas and Hutton. We have done our wetlands work, our environmental work, our archaeological work, our soils work, our threatened and endangered species work, and we're an island. There's very little issues with respect to the things that I've just mentioned, and thus it's a it's a relatively well-placed platform that we believe to accommodate this community, the single-family rental community. So I'll stop there, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to respond.
Thank you for the information. Mr. Art?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all that information that you've given us. It sounds like a very interesting concept, one that I've not seen before, especially that it seems to be 100% turnkey from the time of occupancy to the point of a person leaving the community as far as repairs and ongoing maintenance. What would you had mentioned Leo at the sanctuary is another one of your facilities?
It's not, Art, it's not one of mine. It was one that I benchmarked in the Savannah area. There are a number of single-family rental communities in the Savannah Bluffton area.
Yeah.
And
let me ask, if you had to guesstimate at the median rental cost for one of those units, are we looking at something south of $2,500 a month, or are we way north of that?
Absolutely. $2,500 a month would be a high rent for here.
Okay.
I'm looking at my proposed gross rents, and they'll range anywhere, let's say, from 15 to 24. And maybe by the time I end up building this house, because of pricing, as we all know, the impact and the extraordinary exponential growth in costs and expenses of building a home. But right now, as I'm looking at my numbers, all the rents are south of $2,500.
Okay. So there's the potential that some workers, if you could find two people that wanted to share costs or something, or three people, might be able to move into a house like that and make it quasi-affordable.
Absolutely, and we're counting on it. We're counting on grabbing that part of the demographic here, and I've seen it. I've been in the business almost too long, but I had a very good development friend in Charleston who told me he was going to develop a garden apartment complex on Johns Island in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And just 3-story walk-ups, very, very attractive. And I said, well, who's going to rent here? You're next to Kiowa Island and those places and so forth. And he said, the cooks, the maintenance people, the teachers, the guys that can't afford to live here are going to rent here. And he was absolutely right. And so it's like this, my dad had a saying that, when I was growing up as a kid, he said, Peter, if you ever find yourself in second place and you're doing everything what you know to do, and you still are in second place, he said, stop what you're doing, look at the guy in front of you and do what he's doing. And so, I don't make a claim to having monopoly on best ideas or visions, but that's the way, that I visioned, if you will, this project.
Okay, quick. Here's one other question on the development itself, as it seems to front 278. Are there going to be 2 or 3 points of egress going on to 278?
We're planning at the moment, Art, to take advantage of the 2 median cuts already in existence on 278. And they're not only median cuts, the center median cut where we have the main entrance already has its decel lane from the eastbound. And I may have to extend the queue, if you will, the queuing distance. But otherwise, the improvement, somebody was already anticipating that something was going to be there on that property.
Okay, and those people traveling west on 278, is it your intent to have a deceleration lane, or will it be just strictly a yield and make a right-hand turn in and a right-hand turn out?
Likely that would be on the westbound lanes. I would anticipate that I would proffer with South Carolina DOT to put in a deceleration lane at the entrances. But because it's a state / controlled highway,
Right.
subject to their
Sure.
decision making.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much for your presentation, for your answers. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, sir.
Mr. Jenkins?
I'm okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Boston?
Yeah, my concern was before Lisa even brought it up about Hardeeville, why hadn't you considered annexing into the city of Hardeeville?
Oh, why had we, and Lamar can pop in here as well to support this. When we first became involved and, became contract purchasers of the property, we did, or at least Lamar on behalf of me, did talk to Hardeeville about the project. And sort of big picture, I'm not an expert on Hardeeville, I'm not an expert on Jasper County, but I am an expert in land development. And well, when we talked to Hardeeville, I was given the distinct impression that they were up to their nostrils in activity. And whether or not they could give me the attention that, and be able to work as a partner with me on this project, I was, and I say this in a very friendly way, but if they were on this hearing right now, I would say I was slightly underwhelmed. Okay, I'm not saying that they're, they don't have very good intentions and all, but they have to deal with their issues. That's number one. Number two, and being perfectly blunt, Hardeeville's impact fees are, well, more than Jasper County impact fees, at least at the moment. I submitted to Lisa a draft of a development agreement. I left the fee schedule blank. I didn't make any assumptions going into with respect to the draft of that development agreement, because I knew I am under the belief that I'm going to be sitting down with Andy and Dave, your county administrator and county attorney, and working those things out. They're not cast in stone. And so it's going to be, I'm going to use a real estate term, a little bit of horse trading, if you will, in getting to the end with respect to fees. But I just didn't want to find myself, like one of 20 projects and nobody really sincerely, well, not having the time, okay, to work with me to, work through this project.
Okay. Lisa, my last question is, you talked about a donut a few minutes ago. I guess you're referring to the fact that they would be in an area that if they needed services, and all those services right around them are from Hardeeville, and we're from Jasper County. I know we had some mix up with that, something like that at one time, is actually who would provide that service. Do you recall something like that?
Yes, sir. So, the fire department and the police department are very good about helping each other when they need to, or responding. They don't say, oh, well, we can't help you. I mean, I think, say the police needed to go, that was called to that area. I do believe Hardeeville police would show up, not that we're dependent on them to, but I think they would show up. That's the nature of what they do, and would assist until Jasper County got there. But now, as far as fire, we do have a fire station that's just 3 miles down the road. So, that was in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably in the very beginning had asked them. I know Mr. Mercer, Lamar Mercer, had reached out and asked me. One of their main concerns was, can y'all provide fire? And I do know that Mr. Zadaretsky met with the county administrator, and I believe the county attorney was at least on the call. Yeah. Matter of fact, I was on vacation when they met, so it's been a while. Must have been the end of September or something, to discuss that. And it was Mr. Zadareski decided he wanted to move forward with Jasper County. And, you know, we can ask them or, you know, let them know they can annex, but we can't make them annex.
I understand that.
And that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything else, Mr. Pinckney.
Okay, no other question for you, Dr. Bassett?
No, that's all that I have.
Ms. Ferguson?
Yeah, this is really an interesting concept in this area with the rental. And there's always the question of cost and affordability. I heard the gentleman state that there was some comparison done with a project in Charleston, but Charleston doesn't compare to Hardeeville. And I think that we're always going to have an issue with traffic in this area, especially when we have our main arteries being 278, Highway 17, and we're so close to I-95. So I believe that to see a good traffic study pan out in that area would be very interesting, because that area, 278, is already highly trafficked. So that's all I had. You know, the Mr. Ott brought up the issue of cost, affordability. I'm not sure if those prices appeal to any resident of this area, because that kind of salary just doesn't exist for one family. If they're designed to accommodate two families in one unit at that cost, I'm not sure if that's economical or not. But anyway, that's my comment. And I'd like to say to the gentleman that my prayers certainly go out to every Ukrainian living in Ukraine or outside of Ukraine with what they're going through, and hopefully things will pan out well, people will be safe.
I have one more question, Mr. Pinckney. If it's okay.
Can you wait till the other participant speak?
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Did you call on me, Chairman Pinckney?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I have real concerns about the fact that this property is sandwiched in between the city of Hardeeville properties. That's part of our comprehensive plan and supported by the county council, that we encourage property owners to seek to talk to the county about annexation in cases like this. And Dr. Bostic hit the nail on the head when you talk about county and city services. It's confusing. So your folks would have to call the sheriff, get in touch with the sheriff's department for police protection, whereas their neighbors on either side would call the city of Hardeeville, which is just a few miles away. And it really does. I mean, there are a lot of reasons for that recommendation coming from the county, other than just simply to build a city of Hardeeville. So that's a concern for me. I just want to say that up front, that we haven't coordinated in advance of this meeting with the city of Hardeeville planning folks. That's real disappointing. In looking over the materials, and Lisa, you'll have to guide me here because I may have just missed the bucket. When I looked at the environmental assessment, there's no indication of previous uses of the property, which is really important when you are going to be providing homes where children reside. as in the, and I'm sure you were listening in the previous applicant.
Yes, I was.
So, whether herbicides or insecticides or whatever were used on the property and potentially provide a danger to children, we need to know that. And so maybe that can be provided later. I don't know, but for me, it's important because I think that's part of what we do. The archaeological report was not included. It's discussed, but there's no report there. There were trip generation calculations, but no traffic study. I think that information is extremely helpful to the Planning Commission. We do, as has been previously noted, have a significant problem with traffic on Highway 278. And for us to make a decision, I think it's very helpful. So there was some information that I think would have been helpful to have. Maybe it's not all required at this level, Lisa. You'll have to you'll have to help me with that. I'm not really sure at what point they have to submit that. But there are some little holes that need to be filled in my opinion, before we can make a decision. But anyway, thank you very much.
Commissioner Butler, good points. If I could respond, Chairman.
Yes,
That being
go
said,
ahead.
at the time of the application, because I had to meet the deadline, the total archaeological report that was submitted, that needed to be submitted to be prepared and submitted to the state, had not been prepared because significant laboratory work and so forth needed to be done, because we did a phase 2 archaeological investigation on the property at one site that was identified by the state as being a question mark. And so I engaged the archaeological firm to conduct a phase 2, which is a very extensive. You can imagine folks with shovels and screens and taking whatever they find to the laboratories. And at the end of the day, which I'd be more than happy to send and distribute to the commission, the final archaeological report was done, but it was post-done application-wise to meet the deadline. The conclusions that were represented in the letter from the archaeological firm were substantiated by the final archaeological studies and investigations. And if you like, without hesitation, I will submit that. There are no archaeological issues, qualifying issues with respect to the site. Second point, and good point, what was the site used for possibly in the past? The answer is nothing. It was, I found out, harvested. Timber was harvested on the property in the 70s, but there's never been a structure. It's never been used for agricultural purposes. And other than growing timber, and the last time it was harvested was in, this is my understanding per the environmental and archaeological people, was in sometime in the 70s, but since then nothing has been there. But it's a good point, because I have remediated environmentally challenged sites in mixed use developments in the Baltimore, Washington area. And I had to address specific issues, especially with respect to residential issues in those regards. We'll keep an eye out for it, but and I will, make that comment to the soils and environmental people going forward. With respect to the traffic, yes, I discussed the issues with Thompson Hutton, and I can let Scott Munson or Lamar address the issue even further. But the understanding and agreement that I am committed to is that regardless of the zoning or the rezoning, okay, the property, my project is not going to get development permits or a master plan approval unless we prepare and submit and you accept and approve the detailed traffic impact study that we are planning to do. So I hope that, if you will, by virtue of the rezoning, Doesn't mean I'm going to go out tomorrow or be able to go out tomorrow to develop. My ability to develop will be, among other things, dependent upon your approval of my detailed traffic impact study.
Thank you.
Is there any other question or comment from any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like my turn, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Wade.
My biggest concern is, like Dr. Butler and Dr. Bostic, is that it is surrounded completely and totally by the city of Hardyville. The city of Hardyville is going to be the one that's going to most likely provide the services. And I understand that you don't want to pay their impact fees. I can understand that. And I can also understand that they're extremely busy. But the concept plan, we spent a lot of money on the concept plan. How much money did we spend on a concept plan, Lisa?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
The concept, the comprehensive plan, how much did
Oh, the comprehensive plan, we spent $55,000.
a lot of money on that just for someone to analyze what we need to do with the different land uses. And basically, we're just ignoring it if we allow this to go through. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's right. I understand that we can't make him annex into Hardyville. I understand that. But at the same token, we don't have to make it easy for him to develop the property. That's my thoughts. And the commissioners might not agree with me, but that's the way I feel about it.
Mr. Pinckney.
Yes.
May I address the commission?
Yes, let me do my comments then.
Sure.
And then you can do yours, okay?
Sure.
As it was coming from the Hardyville Planning Commission, several other products we had in that area, and when we asked them for their feed and their concern, they would not respond. And the thing talk about was when it connects to Hardyville, the comp plan didn't force say you must do that, because when they had the 5 mile donut rate and it still exists, the county paid for services, anything within in that 5 mile donut already. So that's not putting a burden on the county or taking anything from the county. This have already been negotiated. So the town of Hardyville had been willingly wanting to work with us, so we don't need to bend over backwards, hold an applicant back to try to work with them. Now, Ms. Wagner, you can comment.
Well, Mr. Pinckney, I'm sorry, but two wrongs don't make a right.
I was pretty much.
They're not allowed. They're not being forthcoming. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't do what we're supposed to do.
So I was going to say kind of what Mr. Pinckney says, just that we didn't ignore the comprehensive plan because they did reach out to Hardyville. And although I didn't send the materials to Hardyville, I sent Hardyville's on the agenda. They get our agendas every month. So they got an agenda last week. And if you look at the agenda, you'll see the tax map numbers on there. A lot of times when they send me, well, a lot of times they don't send me an agenda. The few times they do, I look up the tax map numbers because they don't give me any other information. So they could have looked up those numbers and they could have known and asked for it. You know, I agree, two wrongs don't make a right. But then when they do, like they were thinking of annexing the I-95 logistics property, that was 250 acres, and they didn't even notify Jasper County. And it's just, and one other thing I would like to point out, with the impact fees that Mr. Zadaretsky spoke about, when we had the joint planning agreement, we all had agreed to certain fees, but Hardyville's went and changed theirs. They've put in money, they've taken out money for schools. They've added in money for their administrative staff and all these other fees. And, you know, that Jasper County, when we've been able to look at some development agreements, most recently, we find that they've restructured their whole entire fee structure. But I won't really get into that. I'm just making that comment. And then one other thing I'd just like to point out to y'all, because I didn't mention it, is the traffic narrative. There was some minutes in there from the December 6, 2021 Jasper County Council meeting, where they approved to some of that sales tax money to widen Highway 278. So prior to a master plan, we would require a full traffic study. It would be reviewed by an outside agency, also by DOT, and we would have to, you know, see what would need to be mitigated, what would DOT might require those decel lanes. I would think they would. So I just wanted to let you know, though, that the widening of 278 has been identified as a project with sales tax money.
Mr.
That's
Chairman,
all.
can I have one follow-up question?
Yes.
Lisa, do you know if Hardyville rejected this? In other words, they just didn't want it?
I think they were just too busy to get to it. Mr. Zadaretsky spoke about it, and Mr. Mercer may have some more information. I know he is the one that first initially contacted Jasper County.
Yes, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Can everybody hear me okay? This is Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, so we did have initial communication, as Lisa alluded to earlier. I think the city would like to see this piece be developed more as commercial versus, you know, attainable housing usage, which Mr. Zadaretsky is proposing. You know, looking at the big picture, and I think, you know, the last 2 or 3 years have proven this, and we can all see it. There's less brick and mortar being developed for commercial right now. There's already 70 acres across the street in Margaritaville that's identified and zoned as PDD mixed use for that particular reason, as well as 200 acres just to the west of it within the Morgan Tract PDD, which is allocated to be commercial. It's going to be many years before that much commercial is going to be absorbed in this area. So I think Mr. Zadaretsky made the right decision looking at this as a better, higher and better use as an attainable single family residential community.
And I am in, you know, I think this is a project that really needs to be done. It's a great project. I mean, Hilton Head's having issues right now where they're trying to develop some land so they can have affordable housing over there for their workers. And this is, you know, an opportunity here for the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not objecting to the project. I'm just objecting to the fact that, you know, we're basically ignoring the comprehensive plan and just saying, okay, well, it's all right. You don't have to go into the town of Hardyville. You don't have to annex. They'll just give you permission. And I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other comments from any of the other commissioners?
I have a question. The fact that Mr. Waite just mentioned, are those grounds for us to deny the recommendations of Lisa? Is that enough grounds for us to deny our
I don't see
recommendation?
I don't see the full merits on the way Hardyville been unwilling to cooperate with the county from where this is all from the 5 mile radius was set up. They rather work independently rather than working with the county, because it's supposed to be a joint effort, but they have been willing to do that.
Mr. Pinckney, couldn't we take, this is Deborah Butler. May I say something, sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Couldn't we take Ms. Snowden's, I think, recommendation that we table this until we have a chance as a group of folks to get together? I mean, it's a sad state if we can't get together as a group and sit down and talk with those folks in Hardyville. We should be embarrassed to say we can't do that. In my opinion, we should table this. I don't necessarily think, I'm not opposed to this project either, but I think that as a group of adults, we should sit down with another group of adults and talk about this. We are all working together for Jasper County, and we could table it.
On a zone, you don't table it. It's a timeline that you have to vote it up or down.
Well, we've postponed decisions before, right?
Willingly, not on a zoning application. It's a timeline on it.
Well, I personally, and I've said this before.
If we don't make the effort before the timeline, he will automatically, his application will go up to county council.
Well, I said this before. I think that we should sit down with Hardyville. We're all adults.
Yeah, I mean, we could still make that request, but on this application tonight, zoning application, you don't table. Unless he had something in his application wasn't completed, then we could go back and ask him to complete the application. On a completed application, you have to vote it up or down because it's got a timeline on it.
Lisa, is anything missing?
I mean, well, just like in the staff report, I recommended that the approval based on a full traffic impact study be provided prior to master plan. I mean, other than that, and he had the phase 1 environmental, so he just told you about the phase 2 that he's working on. We'll ask for both of those things at master plan. They were 2 of the things that are also listed in the concept plan.
But the report is missing. It says it is not in there. The report is not available. It will be available, but it says, that's what I said. It says specifically the report is not available.
And again, that's on the checklist for the master plan as well. That's all I'm saying. They're both on the checklist for the concept plan, and they're also on the checklist for the master plan.
So he doesn't have to have that for conceptual review? None of that's required? It's all optional?
I just said it was on the checklist for the concept plan. I didn't say it was optional, but it's also on the checklist for the master plan as well.
So he doesn't have everything that's required for the checklist.
So with the concept plan, if it were approved in the PDD rezoning, he cannot do any type of development without any of the subsequent approvals. We did the 95 logistics the same way, and they did present the full traffic impact analysis. So it's really up to y'all on what you want to do. You can do it as conditional, or if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's up to y'all.
We got to be consistent with the applicants.
Well, that gives us an opportunity because it's not in the packet. It's a conditional approval tonight pending the receipt of the other information that should have been presented tonight, is what she's saying, according to my interpretation. That would give us an opportunity to table that discussion.
In February, the traffic study wasn't in there, and we moved forward. We have to treat we have to be consistent in what we're doing.
This is Scott Watson with Thomas and Hutton. I'll speak.
If staff that and saying that on the application submitted and it wasn't ready, it should not have been on the agenda. This is a normal practice. Most of the time, the traffic study is not in the packet because they have to do it at the master plan and we move forward. Because I mean, you can vote it up or down. It's gonna go to council.
Chairman Pinckney, I think Mr. Munson wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
With regards to the traffic, it's the size and density of this project is not going to produce a traffic impact that exceeds or impacts 278 in a way that's not already being considered in the widening plans for 278. What a complete traffic study for our development would show was that until 278 is improved, that we would have longer wait times for traffic leaving and getting into our project to wait and work its way into the volume of traffic that's moving east and west on 278. So the fact that we have two pre-planned median cuts that were put in place when 278 was originally widened from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, they're already placed there to allow full movement with left turns and right turns off of 278 and to allow right turns and left turns out of our development at those 2 designated areas on 278. So as our project is developed, our entrances would be incorporated into the widening plans for the 278 corridor. But as the capacity of 278 is reached, which is, I think, 30,000 vehicles a day, then our small contribution to that 30,000 vehicles a day is not going to impact what needs to be done on 278 along our frontage. Our entrances will be designed basically the same regardless of what's going on 278. That's what a full-blown traffic study is eventually going to tell you, but it will be quantified to show how our vehicles will enter and exit 278.
Any question for Mr. Moffitt?
Well, I don't have a question. I just have the note here that Lisa wrote. It said a traffic impact analysis must be provided. Is that true, Lisa?
Prior to master plan, yes.
Okay, I mean, I understand what he's saying, but you're saying that's what I need, regardless of, what you think is going to happen. But you're saying it must be provided.
Prior to the master plan, yes, sir. That's what I wrote.
Right, prior to the master plan.
Yes.
Any other question or comments?
Well, Mr. Pinckney, I know what you're talking about when it comes to the city of Hardeeville. We've had our situations with them dealing with the corridor, and seem like they just show a lack of interest in some of the things that we're doing. But again, like Mr. Waite says, two wrong doesn't not make a right, but I know they're hard to deal with.
Mr. Chairman?
I mean, projects that went on across the track, and it was no question asked. It's in the 5 mile donuts what Hardyville thought about it, and they had no concern about it. So what are we talking? If the traffic going in a certain direction, then Hardyville have to make the decision. I disagree with that, and it need to be changed. We need to be consistent in what we do. If this project was on the other side of the railroad track, then none of these questions about Hardyville and the comprehensive plan would have been mentioned.
Mr. Pinckney, I'd like to clarify something. This is Deborah Butler. My comments have nothing to do, I mean, this property is surrounded by Hardyville. And when we have a property like this, I have consistently felt that we should talk to the city of Hardyville. I don't think there's an inconsistency there. I don't believe in pushing people into the city. I don't think I'm being inconsistent.
The property across the track is in the city of Hardyville, but it's not. It's in Jasper County. You can spit across the track to the property there, but they won't annex it. They wouldn't accept it when they make an application.
Are we talking about the logistic 95?
No, not 95. Right across the track from the red line in Hardyville.
People have to be willing to be annexed, Mr. Pinckney. They can't strong arm them.
No, it's projects that have been requested to be annexed so they could do certain things, but they would not. They would not entertain it.
I don't know who that would be, sir. I think you need to do a new survey. People don't want to pay taxes in the city.
No, some businesses that wouldn't qualify in the rural county would qualify in the city, and they wouldn't annex.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know a lot of people out there that don't want to be in the city because they don't want to pay city taxes. They're happy because water and sewer is not a big problem like it used to be in the old days. It's different now. Not everywhere. I acknowledge that, but we have much better access to clean water and sewage through Buford Jasper. But anyway.
Yeah, we're getting off the subject, and we're not going to discuss it anymore. I'm just going to call for a motion, and we're going to move from there. I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins, I'll offer a motion that we accept staff recommendation and approval of the Plan Development District and concept plan, providing they provide a full traffic study.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Art. Mr. Jenkins has made a motion that we accept the recommendation from staff, and it's seconded by Mr. Art. All in favor of such motion? Let it known by a show of hand. One, two, three, four.
That was my work.
So the motion is carried. Well, we're all not in favor of the motion, by show of hands so I can go on right. There's two, Mr. Wade and Ms. Butler. But the motion is carried.
Thank you, Commission members. Thank you. Good evening now.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Commissioner Ferguson, thank you for your kind words.
I would like to say the same thing. My prayers are with you and the people of the Ukraine. We pray that God will straighten the situation out and will come to a better conclusion than what it is now. Yeah, we pray that y'all would.
You're certainly welcome. We're all human beings in one
Right.
world.
Yes.
I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bye. Good evening.
The next thing on the agenda, zoning map amendment, plan development district, and amend to the Center Point PDD / DA and conceptual map.
The applicant's requesting an approval of a plan development district zoning designation for the purpose of adding 2 properties to the Center Point PDD. Included with the zoning map amendment application is an amendment to the Center Point PDD, the DA, and the concept plan. The subject properties are located to the rear of the Center Point PDD and are surrounded on 3 sides by the existing PDD and the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority water canal, which is adjacent to the rear property line. One of the parcels is zoned residential and it consists of 16 acres. The other parcel is zoned rural preservation and consists of 41.75 acres. Both properties are undeveloped and only have access through the PDD. The Center Point PDD was approved by Jasper County Council on August 14, 2008, and it's located along North Oakity Highway, Highway 170, between the intersection of Highway 462 and Snake Road. The only development that's taken place within the Center Point PDD is the John Paul II Catholic School and Caroline's Cottage. The subject parcels were not originally included in the PDD because they were intended for the school site. However, the school decided to build on the western portion of the Center Point PDD. The purpose of the amendment to the Center Point PDD, DA, and concept plan is to add 57.75 acres to the Center Point PDD. The concept map shows the 2 parcels as Phase 1A and Phase 1B. Each parcel will be designated as mixed-use residential and will include a density of 12 dwelling units per gross acre. For multifamily, 8 dwelling units per gross acre for single family attached, and 3 dwelling units per gross acre for single family detached. So the arrangement of land use and density is keeping in sync with the existing Center Point PDD. The Center Point PDD allows the commercial areas to be converted to residential, not to exceed a maximum of 1,768 dwelling units. The amended concept map shows a total of 1,227 units. So the overall maximum density will not be exceeded. The overall acreage that has been used for the school in Caroline's Cottage is 79 acres, with approximately 36 acres of the mixed-use residential acreage being a part of that, so that those acres won't be used for residential. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as rural conservation. Rural conservation seeks to protect and promote the character of Jasper County that largely exists today outside of the municipalities. In these areas, new development should be thoughtfully placed within the existing landscape. The adjacent parcels are zone plan development district on the east, the south, and the west, and rural preservation to the north. And the adjacent land uses are vacant with a 24-hour hospice facility nearby. The subject parcels will be served by a private road through the Center Point PDD. The private road will have direct access to Highway 170, which is a 4-lane state-maintained highway. Just like the other ones you've heard tonight, the zoning designation does not entitle the applicant to do any development without first getting a master plan approval or a subsequent development plan. And staff does recommend approval of the 2 parcels of land being designated as a planned development district and amending the concept plan map. Also, there was a traffic impact analysis provided for those 2, for the Center Point tract. There's one on file from years ago, but it will certainly need to be updated before any more development can take place. And so I think they do have a plan for these two parcels. So that developer had already had the traffic study done. So again, you'll get to see all this prior to approving a master plan. And if you'd like, I can show the concept map. If you'd like me to, I could share the screen.
Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry, give me just a second. I was just getting rid of a few things that I had all these other maps open just in case you wanted to see them. So I'm going to share the screen. Sorry, I got to close a few more windows. I have way too much open. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try this one more time. Okay.
Hey, Lisa, this is Kevin Dukes. I have it available too.
Okay.
If you'd like for me to share.
That would be great because I have it open, and I've closed some things, but I'm still, it's not popping up for me to share. It's cluttered by other stuff. So that would be great. These are the two parcels back here. The 16 acres and the 41 acres that are being added to the Center Point PDD as is. The rest of that map doesn't change. It just identifies those two parcels as mixed use.
Lisa, the PDD was on both sides of this, both sides of these two parcels?
Yes, ma'am. It's surrounded. It's in front and on both sides. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Commissioner Butler, if I will, Kevin Dukes, this is what it currently looks like now. It's not the conceptual plan, but this is the plat of the property.
Okay.
Prior to the removal of the property for Pope John Paul II School. So you can see up here, it still shows it on here as being now informally of the Bishop of Charleston. Those are the two pieces we're talking about. And you can see how they're surrounded. And then on the northern side, it's bordered by the canal that the commission was discussing in the first section of new business.
Where is the John Paul School on this map? Do you know?
I'll show you. If I would just introduce myself. So I'm Kevin Dukes. I'm with the Harvey and Batty Law Firm, and I represent the landowner, and we're working with them and Ms. Wagner on this. So just to show you about where that came out, this is it. So you can see up at the top, the larger backed out version, you can see that there's the school, and then the school portion, that a little over 70 acres is pulled out right there on the western edge of the PDD.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could have a minute just to introduce it.
Yes, you're gonna do you're gonna share maps and pictures with us?
I don't have much of a presentation. I know everybody's ready to be done. So there's not much more to add to what Ms. Wagner said. The only thing that our position is that, we have this zoning donut, which is in the back. And you can currently see the zoning. This is your zoning map here. And so you can see those zonings, the PDD being in orange or yellow. There is a residential piece. There's rural preservation there. This is the same rural preservation that the commission was discussing in our other piece, which actually coincidentally, the first item discussed is right here. And so that's also going to be the first item that was approved in new business tonight is here. So there is no way to access these without going through the PDD. The intention, I believe, when the school was segregated out was to add this piece in there because that part had been owned by the school and it was effectively a swap. What we're talking about now is that while Ms. Wagner did reference that there was a certain amount, 30 some odd acres of mixed use, which was in the Pope John Paul School in the PDD, there also allows for the conversion of commercial space up towards the front to mixed use as well. And so almost all of that property could have been converted to mixed use. And so we're effectively adding less than what was taken out. So it would be, there's no increase in density. The density is under the maximum allowed already, even before it was taken out. Specifically now with the reduction in acreage, the density is actually reduced. So the other thing is that we want to eliminate that zoning, that hole in the zoning, and allow for a consistency of zoning throughout this parcel. Ms. Wagner mentioned that there was a traffic study initially done with the approval. There has been an updated traffic study which was submitted, which shows the majority of this. This is a proposed project, and the traffic study is for a proposed project that is fitting in this area. It's townhomes. Again, this needs to be approved at a later date. This is not part of this application, but I share this with the commission because I know there's a concern, especially we've heard several times about this particular part of 170. But just know that there has been a traffic study done for the PDD as a whole. That included the Pope John Paul section, which has come out. And so we believe that the traffic study this will show that it's approved and be sufficient, and any other development would require that. So with that, I'll answer any questions, but I don't want to take any more of your time.
Okay. We'll go with Ms. Ferguson first.
No comment at this time, Commissioner.
Dr. Butler?
Yes, my question is for Lisa. Lisa, will the transfer or adding this piece in, will the new piece fall under the same guidelines as the 2008 PDD, and are there enough changes to current PDDs to make a difference for this property? Setbacks, density, whatever.
Sure. This actually would be amending the 2008 Centerpoint PDD. So they're not proposing to change any of the regulations. So everything that was adopted in 2008 would apply to this.
Well, I was more concerned that there might be updates that would be perhaps more restrictive or consider other things that weren't really on the weren't considered in 2008.
So in the development agreement, we do say the most current stormwater, but actually our zoning ordinance that we're working out of for any new PDDs was adopted in November 2007. So this came after that, 2008.
So there wouldn't be any changes.
No, ma'am.
Okay, all righty. That's it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ott?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I guess the questions, concerns that I have on the first page of the staff report, towards the bottom, page 1 of 2, it says the Centerpoint PDD allows the commercial areas to be converted to residential, not exceeding a maximum of, I think the correct number is 1,227 units. That's another 1,200 units in addition to, I think we said 1,000 units, just a little bit further down 170. And the concept map that we have in front of us, if I'm reading it correctly, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, it's now showing 1, 2, 3, 4. Are those new signalized intersections, or are those existing signalized intersections?
None of them is signalized at this time. And we have, just so you'll know, we do work with Beaufort County on the Highway 170. I think there is a proposal for the one across from, well, I think this, let me see, if you're looking, the one kind of right in the middle, I think that was proposed for a future signalization when it's warranted. So again, I don't know that DOT has reviewed this traffic study yet, but we'll know more about that and be able to address that at master plan, but they would have to approve basically anything that takes place there, whether it's a signal or a decel lane or
so again, there's still time for review prior to master concept plan being
yes, sir,
approved. Okay, yeah, again, that's my general conversation and issue with 170, because the road has become so heavily traveled that, from this point, really going down to where it intersects 278, I mean, there's not a day that goes by where there's not a major accident or, 30, 40-minute traffic delays on a regular basis. And it seems to keep creeping up into the direction of Beaufort on a very consistent basis. Just something that we all need to be aware of.
Yes, sir. So there was some recommendations in there, but again, DOT will need to approve it, and especially any proposed mitigation they would have to approve. But so prior to us bringing a master plan to you, we would want to make sure that DOT has at least commented on it, and we would also have our third party engineer review the traffic study prior to presenting it for master plan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wade? Mr. Wade, are you there?
I don't see Mr. Wade. Yeah, I don't see him.
Dr. Boston?
I have a question about the, it talks about the projects, zoning map amendment, plan development district amendment to the Centerpoint PDD/DA. What is the DA? That development agreement?
Yes,
What's
sir.
that?
The development agreement.
So we recommend that they amend the development agreement as well?
Well, no, not really. Sorry about that.
I don't even know what it is.
Sure. So in this case, if you noticed, I mean, that's what's in your package is a just 3 pages. It would just be an amendment that's filed to the Plan Development District. And then there is this 3-page amendment that really needs to be approved by County Council for the development agreement, and that would be filed with the Register of Deeds. It would just be an amendment to what's already been recorded.
And that shows what's been, does that show what has already been reported?
No, sir. It doesn't show it just tells you what's being changed in the development agreement, which is very little. It's basically just add in those 2 parcels of land.
Okay, no problem. That's the only thing I had.
Mr. Jenkins?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Is Mr. Wade back on the line?
I don't see him, Chairman.
Did I miss anyone? Does anyone have any further questions? Does anyone have any other further questions? Hearing none, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Deborah Butler. I recommend, I move that we accept the staff recommendation and forward to County Council a recommendation for approving the zoning map amendment to add 2 parcels to the Centerpoint PDD and approval of the amendment to the Centerpoint PDD DA and concept plan.
I'll second that. I have been listening, but I just couldn't chime in, but I'll second that.
Okay, the motion has been made by Dr. Buckles to send a favorable recommendation to County Council for a conceptual amendment to the Centerpoint PDD and DA and conceptual map. Second by Mr. Way. Ready for question? Ready for question?
Mr. Chairman, I think you said.
Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman? Did you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think you said conceptual map is conception plan. You said conception map.
Conceptual map. Map is on the application.
And they're the same thing.
Oh, because I see plan in front
map.
of me. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's all right, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure.
All in favor of such motion, let it know by a show of hand. It was voted unanimous. So motion is carried. It will be further on to County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next thing is discussion. Annual report.
Mr. Chairman, I'm more than happy to go over this with you, but I know that y'all can read and it's getting late. So I'll just tell you real quickly, I put in the annual report for the planning department, the building department, and then I did do a comparison. And I will point out one thing on the comparison table. It's the last thing under the reports under 2020. The value of the mobile homes, I had it wrong. So I had it wrong last year. It was one too many zeros. It's not 89,000. The permit fees were 8,900, which means the total for last year's permit fee should have been $438,127. It was off by approximately $80,000. Other than that, everything else seems to be in order with these reports.
Okay. Open discussion. I'd like to share something. I was talking about having a meeting with Hardyville. We can request through the county council and county attorney for this, because the agreements that have been worked out with Hardyville had not been with the planning commission. It's been with county council. So if the group wish to meet with Hardyville, we can get Ms. Wagner to make that request through the county council and the county attorney, and they'll let us know when they can make that available.
I would personally like for us to meet. If you were asking each individual commissioner, I think it would be a good idea. We have apparently bad blood and we need to fix it.
I mean, the requests need to be made through county council.
Right, I understand that.
Yes. So if the commissioners want Ms. Wagner to make that request, for that to be done, I'm absolutely fine with that.
I would like to see that happen.
Well,
what about
this is Sharon?
Okay, I've got three.
This is Sharon
Yeah.
Ferguson. Yeah, that really should happen. We should not have to put the applicant in a position that he was in tonight.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
If that applicant,
Well,
I'm sorry.
I've got, I want to ditto pretty much what's been said, but looking at it from a different angle. It seems like the issue that we have, is it with the planning commissioner, not the planning commissioner, but your counterpart in Hardyville, or is with the actual town of Hardyville? This lack of communication.
Yeah, it's just a lack of communication.
What have been put in place have been approved by county council. We are just serving at the pledge of the county council. And the county council are aware of the lack of communication with the city of Hardyville and their commissioners and the planning director. So they can request this meeting, and if they desire for us to do this, and it can happen.
I agree with what Dr.
We don't want to. Somebody was speaking.
Well, it was me, Chairman Pinckney. I just wanted to say I agree with Dr. Bostic. It appears to be a controversy between the planning directors versus the commissioners. I mean, just listening to it. I mean, I don't know anything about it other than the little we've heard here, but I mean, somehow there needs to be improved communication. We guys need to all work together for the betterment of the county. And I know you all agree with that.
I don't think we're getting, we don't,
for sure.
You or not.
I would just, I know Chairman Pinckney and Mr. Bostic remembers, and I think Mr. Waite was with us then, but in 2017, when they wanted to stop a rezoning, they came here and we worked on the Gateway Corridor, and I swanny we worked for at least 9 months, and they agreed that we would have quarterly meetings, but as soon as that was done, there was no more interest in having these meetings. And, you know, I don't have a problem with them. I'm happy to share information. If they never send me another agenda for their planning commission, I'm still send them mine I send them mine every month because I've added them to my distribution list. So, you know, does seem to me like it's just a one-way street. I don't think we have issues from the planning director part of it. It's just, the expectations just seem to be on Jasper County. They don't seem to be mutual, but I do agree we should find a way to work. I know they've recently adopted an ordinance that says they're going to notify us of every property that they annex into Hardyville. And I went to their website. This is how I see their agendas. I have to go look it up. So I went to their website and saw that they just annexed a property right there on Strain Place in a residential community of Jasper County, right off of Highway 17 last month, and no notice.
You know, Lisa, they email me their agenda.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
I sent all y'all's names and email addresses in. I didn't know if y'all were getting them.
I get an email from them about their council meeting and their planning commission meeting both. I do.
Maybe they just don't want to put me on the list. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jenkins.
Yes.
I know it's getting late, but this needs to be said. I remember we reached out to Hardyville more than one time.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I remember we also discussed the 5-mile radius with them one time. I also can remember Lisa. They came down here and we talked to them and they had a meeting. And it's not Jasper County Planning Commission. I'm telling you, it's not us, but maybe we can have this meeting and find out, you know, what the problem is. But we have reached out to Hardyville. I've been on this planning commission long enough, and I can remember that we had Lisa and some of these commission, the older one can remember, we have reached out to Hardyville. We have had meetings with them and they won't return our meetings. So maybe we can try it again, but I don't know.
Mr. Jenkins, did you hear what Ms. Snowden said in her email message to us? That she was not notified about this, what we voted on tonight. So there is miscommunication on both sides. And there is a history here that I am totally unaware of and really don't need to know. But I think we need to work to make it better.
Right. There is miscommunication, but I just want the commission to understand that this commission, before the new commission came, we have reached out to Hardyville. But you're right. I have no objection of reaching out and sit down and talking, and maybe this would help. But I don't want people to think that this commission had not reached out to Hardyville. We did it more than one time.
And Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you could help us get a notification, I mean, maybe, you know,
You're the one that got my name on the list.
I mean, no, what I mean, I told her, I said, I can't recall one time you've ever sent us any information at all about a project. So that's what I mean. You know, it's like, well, we can keep giving them information, but at what point do we stand up and say, y'all should also give us the same respect?
Well, I agree with that. It needs to be reciprocal.
At the end of the day, the applicant should not be in the middle of that.
No.
Because there was miscommunication. If that applicant has done everything that he was supposed to do to get to this point, then we should not deny him approval.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna back up on that. I don't think you did everything you should have done, to be honest with you.
No.
I don't really think, like he was talking about the development agreement and all this, he didn't want to go that way. Because it was too expensive, the bottom line.
Right, he was in the money.
But then coming this route, he did everything he was supposed to do. Now, is he forced to be annexed into Hardyville?
No, but we have a comprehensive plan, and part of that plan, as Mr. Waite pointed out, requires that we encourage annexation into the municipalities. That's what the county council accepted. That's what we're supposed to do as commissioners. It's not something we made up. It's something that somebody else made up and said, this is what we're going to do.
And it's not like Hardyville, that he went to Hardyville and then Hardyville rejected him and said, okay, we don't want you. That's different. Then at that point, then they go to county and we approve it, kind of like what happened with the logistics 95. That's fine. Hardyville rejected it. Well, at that point, yeah, we can approve it to me. But, you have to kind of push them towards joining the municipality because they're not going to want to do it. It's extra tax money. It's extra fees. They don't want to do it.
But they don't have to.
It's not a requirement.
They should be pushed that way, though.
They should be, but it's not a requirement.
Write the comprehensive plan.
They should be, but it's not a requirement. I mean, I understand that the services that they would get, they would benefit from, but it's not a requirement. So we can encourage them to go that route, but they're not
encouraging that.
Well, we didn't do that.
Yes, we did. See, that's a matter of opinion, I guess.
I think that in mentioning the benefit of the services that they would get from the fire department and the police department, that was encouragement.
And they met with a county council person and they met with the administrator after they talked to Hardyville. That happened like back in September. So they did go to Hardyville.
But Hardyville.
And I was told by the county that we couldn't make them annex. So it's really a matter of opinion how you view it, I guess.
One thing.
The reason we do this is because when these folks want to locate in the county, it puts an extra burden on the county. In other words, they go into the city, we don't have to provide all these different services.
And sometimes people do want to go into the city because they can get the heavier industrial, they can get even more density. So there are some benefits that they do receive when they go in the city, but he didn't want to go in the city, so.
Hey, but could I change the topic for a second, Mr. Pinckney, Chairman Pinckney?
Yeah.
What your point to the Nimmer project, I thought was, spot on with kids having to walk sometimes in the dark to the bus. Is there something in our rules that needs to be addressed so that when they are putting together these projects that they should have to provide walkways? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It's these small developments. These big guys, they're going to do what they have to do, and they're going to have sidewalks. But it's these small people.
We do have some provisions, but they're really not in the rural areas. They're more in the walkable communities, or where you're connecting an area maybe to a downtown center or a commercial area. So we do have them, but not in the rural subdivision as far as requirements.
I mean, they don't necessarily need sidewalks, but providing a safe place for children to walk on the side of the road doesn't seem unreasonable when they're going to be providing a place for cars. But that's not in our rules, right?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Well, listen. Listen to me. The reason I brought that up, and I know just like I say, Mongo is a good developer. In one of their projects, they didn't put them sidewalks in. One child got hit. The homeowners association formed a group and they brought suit. They went back in there and they put sidewalk on one side of the street so those kids have a safe walking path to the bus stop.
Well, I just wonder.
A lot of those in those close proximity, they don't allow them buses to come in there.
Well, I'm not sure, but I didn't know.
If we need young people get to work. And the thing, if you read the guidelines with zoning approval for subdivision, all this, everything is not written in there word by word, but it does say it's our responsibility to make what we approve as safe. And I asked the question, they gearing this up toward younger people that are going to have children. We need to provide safety for those kids. If a child get killed in that subdivision, you think about it, this is what I approve that.
We can't add things that are not required, though.
And voting on a zoning approval. And I mean, you don't have to, you can Google it. The responsibility of planning commission, our primary job is the comprehensive plan and zoning. That's the two biggest things we deal with. Look at all the guidelines under zoning. the main thing is safe. That's why we want traffic study, because it's beyond our scope of thinking that traffic can get in and out a place safely. I mean, they stretched that subdivision to the max with all those cul-de-sacs on getting people out of there.
Well, that's why I asked if our rules need to be examined. Because if it's not required in our ordinance or in our rules, I don't think we can require it. No matter how much it's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, can I be excused?
No, we can close out in a minute. When they claim engineers approve this, we have the right to challenge them. Say, this is what we prefer. This is what we see as being safe. You can't go, if they could go by the book, they wouldn't need us. They could bring it in to Ms. Wagner and she can go over the checklist and say, you approve. But they got 7 physical bodies sitting here to make decision on the safety issues on the zoning change. And I mean, don't take no further. Pull it up. Ms. Wagner got copies. She can give you one, or you can go online and pull it up. If it was just to go by what's written.
And we have done that. We have made suggestions and requirements that were not necessarily in writing, because it's like a broad clause in there that we're responsible for safety, and there's some other issue too. So I agree that we can do some things that are not written within the purview of what we are required to do as commissioners. Ms. Wagner knows about it, but we don't have time to discuss it all tonight, I'm sure. But it's there. Mr. Chairman, I call for a motion that we stand adjourned.
And I second that.
All right. Until our next scheduled meeting in March, and we ask everybody to be safe, and thank you for your patience, because we had a long meeting tonight, longer than we usually have.
Good night.